Chapter 103 Kobold King 2. Chapter 103 Kobold King 2. Discovering that the helm mode of a dungeon dropped so much valuable equipment, even Gentle Snow was stunned. If they could clear the helm mode of the Dark Moon Graveyard, it was unknown just how much top-tier equipment they could obtain. With top-tier equipment, they would have a much easier time conquering the other team dungeons. Thinking up to this point, Gentle Snow became much more interested towards conquering the helm mode of the Dark Moon Graveyard. It was just that she did not know whether Shurfong was capable of accomplishing this magnificent feat. After Shurfong distributed the equipment, many of the team members immediately swapped out their old equipment for the new. It was especially true for the extremely lucky Blackie. Blackie was the only Cursemancer on the entire team. Among the 9 pieces of mysterious iron equipment, there were 2 pieces of the Death Word set equipment meant for Cursemancers. The Death Word set equipment was at the apex of all level 5 set equipment for Cursemancers. Just the effect of having 2 set pieces increased Blackie's Dark Arrow by 1 level. In addition, Blackie's Dark Arrow was already level 4. At level 5, the Dark Arrow's damage increased by a large leap. Meanwhile, Kola managed to win a mysterious iron shield by rolling. After equipping the shield, his defense surpassed the shield warrior from Ouroboros, Ghost Chop, by quite a lot. Although many items dropped, Shurfong incessantly shook his head at these items. None of these items attracted his attention. "Why don't you want this piece of bronze equipment for swordsmen?" Gentle Snow asked, astonished. With just a glance at Shurfeng's equipment, anybody could tell it was just individual bronze equipment assembled together. According to logic, their attributes should be much weaker than the equipment dropped from the helm mode of the Dark Moon Graveyard. However, Shurfong remained indifferent towards the equipment dropped. "The attributes of this equipment isn't as good as what I'm currently using. Just give it to your guild swordsman." Shurfong carelessly gave the equipment to Gentle Snow. Naturally, he would not mention that he already possessed a set of Silvermoon set equipment, which was the best set equipment for swordsmen under level 10. After hearing Shurfong, the other swordsman in the team repeatedly expressed his gratitude towards him. Even if Shurfong were to take away the equipment for swordsmen, nobody on the team would complain. On the contrary, they would feel it was only natural that he would do so. No matter what anybody said, it was all due to Shurfeng's efforts that they were able to obtain so much equipment. However, Shurfong displayed himself to be extremely impartial, causing the members of Ouroboros further admiration. Their gazes when they looked at Shurfong held even more reverence now. Shurfong stayed unmoved while faced with top-tier equipment. In the virtual gaming world, not many people would be capable of remaining as impartial when leading a temporary team. Noticing everyone had mostly recovered, Shurfong said inside the team chat. "Everyone, prepare yourselves. We will be going to the next strategic point. Those without speed scrolls, come get them from me." The members of Ouroboros were troubled when they heard this. Each of them had only carried 2 speed scrolls and both had already been used. However, they felt extremely awkward asking for speed scrolls from Shurfong. After all, they previously made a mockery of Shurfong. It would practically be a slap to their own faces if they asked Shurfong for the expensive speed scrolls now. However, if they remained stubborn, they would only embarrass themselves when they died later on. "Can I buy some speed scrolls from you? I didn't have them prepare enough speed scrolls previously. We would feel extremely ashamed if you were to just give them to us for free." Gentle Snow naturally knew of her teammates' embarrassment. Without having a better option, she chose to take the initiative. "All right." Since Gentle Snow already asked, Shurfong would not refuse. After all, his money didn't grow on trees either. Fortunately, Shurfong was prepared for such a situation, purchasing plenty of speed scrolls. He provided each team member of Ouroboros with 3 speed scrolls. However, when the members of Ouroboros were trading the speed scrolls with Shurfong, they all had their heads lowered in embarrassment. They felt deeply ashamed in their hearts. Some of them also thanked Shurfong directly, leaving Shurfong at a loss. "Dirty bastard, this lady is a magnanimous person. Seeing that you've performed well, I've decided to forgive you. Give me the scroll then." Zhao Yueru walked towards Shurfong, her head raised and her arms hugging her bosom. The crimson-red robe she wore revealed a deep cleavage, and a bashful tinge of red appeared on her delicate face as she spoke. Shifeng naturally understood that it was a difficult feat for the incomparably prideful flame witch from his previous life to carry out such an action. If other players were to see her behaving as such right now, most likely, their jaws would have fallen to the ground from shock by now. Not only was Zhao Yueru currently displaying frailty, but she also apologized to Shifeng. Even Xiao Yu was pinching her own tender, pink cheeks, thinking she was hallucinating. Shifeng only revealed a smile at Zhao Yueru's display as he traded the speed scrolls to her. However, inwardly, he was baffled. Was the sun rising from the west? He did not think that Zhao Yueru had such a side to her. If other men were to see this, their bones might turn to mush. Shifeng did not think that his unintentional action would actually allow him to witness such a scene. A pity he did not record the moment. On the other side, just as Shifeng and the others busied themselves in the Dark Moon Graveyard, the other guilds were still exploring the maze. They died over and over. Such a situation caused many guilds to give up their conquest of the Dark Moon Graveyard. If they continued this act of suicide, they might not properly recover their horrifying experience loss. However, there were still some of the stronger guilds who continued their exploration, conquering the Dark Moon Graveyard bit by bit. 3 hours after the Dark Moon Graveyard opened, there was still not a single guild that managed to clear the dungeon. After frantically trying to conquer the dungeon, the Assassin's Alliance, Heaven's Crown, and other raided guilds started to cool their actions. They started to calmly analyze all the information they obtained from the dungeon. Meanwhile, the team Shifeng led had already killed their way towards an underground mausoleum, preparing to enter it. In order to arrive at this mausoleum, Shifeng had led the team through 2 more similar massacres, obtaining more than 40 pieces of equipment and various materials. Everyone in the team greatly improved as a result. The 2 MTs in the team also surpassed the 400 defense threshold. Now, even when faced against the Kobold zombies' claw attacks, they could resist 2 hits head-on. This underground mausoleum was situated in the central region of the wasteland. It was also the Dark Moon Graveyard's sole exit. In order to avoid suspicion, Shifeng intentionally took several detours. Just as Shifeng and the others were about to enter, Gentle Snow looked towards the serene and distant mausoleum, suddenly saying, "There are no monsters in the surroundings. This place may very well be the exit of the Dark Moon Graveyard. We should let the assassin scout ahead first. That way, if there are traps ahead, we won't risk a team wipe." Alright. Although Shifeng knew there were no traps, he couldn't actually reveal that. So, he could only agree to Gentle Snow's suggestion. Following which, one of the assassins snuck into the mausoleum. After more than 10 minutes passed, the assassin reported that there were no dangers ahead. The assassin also discovered a teleportation circle inside a large hall. However, there was a gigantic monster standing guard in the middle of the teleportation circle. The assassin did not close in on the monster for fear of being discovered. Moreover, the room was dimly lit, so the assassin could not clearly see the information of the monster within. "Let's go take a look then," Shifeng said as he entered the mausoleum. Although the assassin did not know what kind of monster was inside, Shifeng certainly knew. The monster guarding the teleportation circle was the final boss of the Dark Moon Graveyard. It used to be the king of kobolds, the Kobold King Pachleo. The moment everyone entered the large hall, the dimly lit hall suddenly changed. The extinguished candles around the room flared to life, emitting a dark green flame and illuminating the entire hall. Meanwhile, a figure over 3 meters tall stood in the center of the hall. The figure was a ferocious kobold, its body covered in blue-colored armor, and its hands wielding a pitch-black great sword decorated with runes. The kobold silently stood on the magic circle, not even moving a muscle as its entire body radiated a frightening pressure. Everyone used observation skills, one after another, wanting to understand this monster. However, after seeing its information, everyone's complexion turned pale. They felt a deep terror as they gazed at this creature, and even Gentle Snow sucked in a cold breath. None of them had any confidence in killing this monster. Chapter 104 An Unknown Way of Battle. Chapter 104 An Unknown Way of Battle. Everyone stood silently within the bright mausoleum hall, turning the place eerily quiet. After some time had passed, "Brother Foam, what do we do now? This boss is just too terrifying. It is impossible for us to kill it." Blackie looked towards Foam, asking. On the other side, Zhao Yuru said helplessly, "Snow, it seems we won't be able to clear the dungeon after all." The other team members also indicated their agreement. There could be no greater folly than to attempt something they already knew to be impossible. "Are we just going to give up like this?" Gentle Snow's slender eyelashes trembled slightly, her crystal-clear eyes shifting towards the Kobold King's figure once more. They had reached this point after much difficulty. Were they just going to give up like this? Kobold King Patchleo, Lord Rank. Level 6. HP 120,000/120,000. Not mentioning its frightening amount of HP, just the mere words, Lord Rank, were enough to cause players to tremble. That meant that there was a single aspect to this monster that was extremely terrifying, either in terms of speed, strength, or magic. Based solely on the terrifying aura radiating off of the Kobold King's body, its bulging, iron-like muscles, the pitch-black greatsword as tall as a man, which pierced deeply into the ground. Even without having any exchanges with this Kobold King, everyone knew there was no way to overpower it. "Why don't we give it a try first? Ghost Chop, try out the boss capabilities. The others will leave the hall first," Gentle Snow said after giving it some thought. Gentle Snow still intended to give the boss a try. She was hoping to look for a strategy to kill it. "Let's leave first then," Shifeng said as well. Gentle Snow's thoughts were exactly the same as his. He would let the MT try out the boss, then let the team watch. That way, he would have an appropriate excuse when he revealed his strategy. Following this, the shield warrior, Ghost Chop, activated his video recording, charging towards the Kobold King alone. Meanwhile, the thick and heavy stone doors leading into the hall started closing. Just as Ghost Chop was midway through his charge, the Kobold King abruptly opened its eyes. Kachak! The Kobold King casually pulled out the pitch-black sword from the ground. Its robust legs abruptly exploded with power as it similarly charged at Ghost Chop. Like a fierce gale, the Kobold King swept towards Ghost Chop. Ghost Chop's body was frightened stiff. He rapidly reacted by raising his shield, blocking it in front of his chest. In the blink of an eye, a black ray, which carried with it an explosive sound, struck on the shield. Hong! Ghost Chop's entire person was sent flying, and a damage of 633 points appeared above his head. His entire arm felt numb from the attack. If he had not used his shield to block, he might have been killed instantly. Ghost Chop felt that his own techniques were quite good, and he was an elite member of Ouroboros. Moreover, his task right now wasn't even to kill off the boss. If he could not even force the boss to reveal its hidden cards, then he would be an absolute disgrace. Ghost Chop abruptly stood up. He poured a bottle of basic regeneration potion down his throat, his HP recovering to more than half of its total. Just as he was considering attempting another bout with the boss, he suddenly discovered that the boss was already standing behind him, its great sword raised up high. Abruptly, the Kobold King slashed the great sword at Ghost Chop. Shield wall. Ghost Chop no longer had the option to dodge the attack. He could only use his life-saving skill to take the attack at full force. When used, Shield Wall would reduce the damage the user received by half for a duration of 12 seconds. The black runic greatsword struck down once more. Although Ghost Chop had used his shield to block the attack again, he was instantly forced into a kneeling position by the resulting pressure. The stone bricks beneath his feet cracked apart like a spider's web, and his HP instantly fell by 426 points, leaving him with only a thread of life remaining. The Kobold King then kicked towards the side of Ghost Chop's abdomen. Ghost Chop helplessly imprinted himself onto a wall, and his HP instantly dropped down to 0. Only 3 seconds had passed since the start of the battle. Just like that, an MT that was equipped with top-tier equipment was dead. So much so that, even before the stone doors had closed shut, they had opened once more. Everyone looked at Ghost Chop, who was planted into a wall, shocked. What was this situation? The door had just closed before opening again, and their MT was already dead. "You are revived, Ghost Chop," Gentle Snow said with a gloomy expression. Ghost Chop being killed so quickly was a clear indicator of how strong this boss was. After Ghost Chop was revived, a somber expression hung on his face. He unwillingly shared with everyone the recording he made, allowing them all to analyze the boss' strength. "Strong!" Zhao Yueru could not help but say in shock. "This general speed and reaction speed, this strength, and also the constantly varying attack patterns. Is this really an NPC? Are we sure this isn't a martial arts expert in disguise?" Before even witnessing the boss in battle, everyone could already feel how powerful it was. Now that they witnessed this for themselves, aside from feeling shocked, they were also astounded. With Ghost Chop's skills, he was actually unable to even damage the boss. This was just too horrifying. Even if it was the strongest chieftain rank monster Gentle Snow met before, in comparison to this Kobold King, it would only be a little rabbit. As for Shifeng's party, whom had battled with a Lord rank boss before, after looking at the recording, even they were feeling apprehensive. As expected of a Lord rank boss in a team dungeon, compared to the Lord rank boss of a party dungeon, it was at least several times stronger. Not only was its speed and strength a problem, but its attack patterns were even more so. There were just too many variations. It was as if they were fighting in a close-quartered combat against an expert. Moreover, the physical attributes of this expert were better than theirs by several fold. Just how were they supposed to continue battling against this boss? Even if their brother Feng was very powerful, he might not be able to last long against this boss. After all, this boss had a HP of 120,000 and their HP did not even reach 1,000. Let's withdraw. After considering for a good while and thinking up of all sorts of simulations, Gentle Snow still came to the conclusion that they would be team wiped. She was not prepared to waste time here, and rather prepared to raid the normal mode of the Dark Moon Graveyard. The boss in the normal mode should be a chieftain rank boss, which should be much weaker. According to their current equipment, they would at least have a 20 to 30% chance of killing the boss. Everyone else could only give up after hearing Gentle Snow say this, so all of them took out return scrolls. At this moment, Shifeng suddenly said in the team chat, "After looking at the Kobold King's attack patterns, if Miss Snow, the two MTs, and myself were to implement a rotation battle, we should have somewhat of a chance at succeeding. I wonder if Miss Snow still wishes to raid this boss?" Although Shifeng's voice was soft, it was as if a light in the darkness appeared, brightening everyone's spirits. "Brother Feng, are we really going to fight it?" Blackie looked at the Kobold King, swallowing down a mouthful of saliva. Even at such a distance away from it, Blackie could still feel his legs trembling. If he were to close in on it a little more, he might already be on the ground, kneeling. In fact, it wasn't just Blackie who was impacted by the Kobold King's imposing aura. The other team members did not fare any better than Blackie. They instinctively acknowledged that they could not beat it, wanting to run away from it. "You have a plan?" Shock flashed past Zhao Yueru's eyes as she looked at Shifeng, asking. This was a lord inside a team dungeon. Its HP was several times higher than the lords in the wild. Its attack power and attack patterns, as well, were despairingly powerful. Zhao Yueru did not think that Shifeng would have a method to raid it. Shifeng shrugged his shoulders, looking at the Kobold King as he said, "My confidence at succeeding isn't high. However, we can still give it a try. Isn't it just a 10% experience loss? Killing all the way here, the experience we obtained has far exceeded just 10%. Even if we died, we have already obtained a lot of equipment. Don't tell me that you guys are so willing to just give up?" Gentle Snow was slightly shocked. She did not think that Shifeng could bring her so many surprises. Even if they could not raid the boss this time, she would definitely pull Shifeng into Ouroboros. "What are the chances for success?" Gentle Snow asked, her iceberg-like expression finally revealing a warm smile. 20%. Shifeng had already made the most conservative estimation. In reality, he had estimated their success rate to be at 50%. However, he was worried that if he were to say it out loud it would be bad. He might attract suspicion. What? You said 20%? Zhao Yueru rolled her eyes at Shifeng. With such a low success rate, who would dare take the challenge? Alright, let's hear your plan then. We will be supporting you fully. Gentle Snow interrupted Zhao Yueru, saying softly. Gentle Snow herself had estimated their chances at getting rid of the Lord rank boss at 0%. As for a chieftain rank boss, she had estimated the success rate to be at 20 to 30% chance. Judging from Shifeng's previous behavior, he did not seem like a person that exaggerated things. Since Shifeng had a similar certainty for success, wouldn't killing the Lord rank boss be much better? Moreover, she was extremely interested in the 4-man rotation battle Shifeng had mentioned. She did not know what kind of method of battle this was to actually let them have such a high chance of success against the Lord rank Kobold King. Chapter 105 Ashblade 1. Chapter 105 Ashblade 1. ___. Although the members of Ouroboros admired Shifeng, they still felt that it was impossible for them to raid this boss. What would happen if they were wiped out? However, Gentle Snow had already nodded her head in agreement. That meant she was also willing to take on this risk. Even if everyone were to lose 10% of their experience, and some skill proficiency, losing to the other guilds in terms of levels by a little, she would shoulder all the responsibility. Although 10% of experience seemed like a small amount when a player had reached level 6, raising their experience by 10% would require at least 2 to 3 hours worth of effort. If the team was wiped out as a result of Gentle Snow's decision, the losses the team suffered would not be small. It was obvious just how much trust she placed in Shifeng. The members of Ouroboros looked at each other, feeling that they were all too timid. After playing virtual reality games for so long, they had all turned toward stability. They thought that, in order to raise their standings in the guild, the less deaths they had, the better. Yet, unknowingly, they had forgotten one of the most important points when playing a virtual reality game. The thrill of adventure. That was the reason why most people played virtual reality games. They had already gained a bountiful harvest from the dungeon. Just like what Shifeng had said, it wouldn't really matter, even if they died. Leader, we'll do as you say then. Whatever you want me to do, I guarantee that I'll do it. The shield warrior, Ghost Chop, looked towards Shifeng, clapping his chest as he said so. Leader, say it. Right, say it. The members of Ouroboros all looked towards Shifeng. They had thought it through already. If they were going to make a loss, so be it. However, on the off chance that they did succeed, endless glory would await them. Since everyone has agreed, I'll tell you my strategy. After we start the raid, only me, Miss Snow, and the 2 MTs will battle with the Kobold King. The other melee jobs are to all stay at a distance. Berserkers, listen to my command to use charge. Assassins, after giving the boss a bleeding effect, immediately distance yourselves and use bows to attack. The other range jobs should just dish out as much damage as you can. However, pay attention to maintain a distance of 25 yards or above from the boss. The 2 clerics and druids should focus on healing the MTs, while the oracles will heal Miss Snow and I. Shifeng started explaining his strategy, giving Gentle Snow and the others detailed explanation on the method of rotation battle. The rotation battle method was a technique that allowed the weak to win against the strong. It was a technique specifically meant for dealing with bosses. In Shifeng's previous life, this method of battle was gradually discovered by some experts a month after God's domain's opening. These experts then carried out the technique in an actual battle against the boss of a dungeon. Unexpectedly, the technique yielded remarkable results. Bosses, which they were previously helpless against, were easily gotten rid of with this technique. Following which, this technique slowly spread out, and within 2 months' time, almost every guild's elite team members had learned the technique. Right now, if they wished to raid this Lord rank Kobold King, then they would need to utilize this method of battle. Otherwise, for as many battles as they carried out, they would die an equal amount of deaths. There would be no exceptions. After Shifeng's explanation ended, everyone entered into the large hall of the mausoleum. The Kobold King, equipped with blue-colored armor, still stood silently in the middle of the hall. Kola, start the raid. Pay attention to your positioning and set aside the Kobold King for the ranged players. After which, you and I will cooperate to hold off the boss. When we are both unable to hold it off any longer, Ghost Chop will be responsible for relaying the boss over and cooperate with Miss Snow to hold it off. After we have stabilized the boss aggro, all ranged players can start dealing damage. Shifeng unsheathed his pair of swords, giving out instructions one after the other in a methodical manner. Leave it to me! Kola appeared slightly panicked. However, after having gone through Shifeng's guidance for a period of time, he gradually began displaying the potential of an apex expert. After everyone was in position, Kola immediately rushed at the Kobold King with his bear-like robust body. However, before he had even covered half the distance, and having yet to alert the Kobold King, he used Divine Shield Strike. Kola's shield flew out, transforming into a shooting star as it shot towards the Kobold King. Just as the flying shield was about to hit the Kobold King abruptly opened its eyes, revealing two blood-red orbs. Its mouth opened wide, exposing a sinister, cold smile. With a single draw of its great sword, the Kobold King sent the shield flying away. The shield did not cause even a single point of damage. Before anybody could be shocked by the Kobold King's skill, the Kobold King had taken a large stride forward. It reached Kola in the blink of an eye, its great sword striking downwards. With the arm that was holding onto the shield, Kola blocked against the attack from the great sword, receiving more than 400 damage. Meanwhile, Kola's other hand abruptly tightened its grip around the dagger, and with a yell, he slashed out the dagger, striking at the side of the pitch-black great sword. Ping. The sword brandished by the Kobold King, due to the offset produced from Kola's dagger, had slid off along his shield and pierced into the ground, causing a halt to the Kobold King's battle rhythm. Beautifully done! Shifeng appeared behind Kola at this moment. Shifeng brandished the crimson blade, striking at the Kobold King's great sword once more, causing the great sword to sink deeper into the ground. At the same time, Shifeng cast Chop, using the abyssal blade. The sword transformed into a black ray as it pierced at the Kobold King's neck. This time, they finally caused damage to the Kobold King, with a damage of 193 points appearing above its head. Before Shifeng could retrieve his swords, the Kobold King had released its grip on its great sword, sending a punch towards Shifeng. Switch! Shifeng yelled. Ghost Chop had long since been waiting at the side. Immediately he sent a slash at the Kobold King's arm. As a result of the impact, he was sent retreating 2 steps backward by the Kobold King's fist with a damage of over 200 points appearing above his head. However, the Kobold King was also forced back, its body nearly losing its balance. Gentle Snow rushed up at this time, her flame spirit greatsword transforming into a sword of fire, as she used Flame Slash on a gap in the Kobold King's armor, dealing 132 damage to it. Soon after, the Kobold King finally managed to stabilize its body. It brandished its great sword in a fit of rage, casting a horizontal slash. However, Kola was a step ahead of it as he forcefully received this horizontal slash. As a result, no one else received a single point of damage from the Kobold King's attack. Kola himself, however, received 560 damage. Fortunately, there were 3 healers healing him at the same time, bringing his HP from a critical state back up to more than half. Subsequently, Shifeng and Gentle Snow continuously overlapped their attacks with each other, while Kola and Ghost Chop kept on receiving the damage, and the healers healed them without stopping. In such a way, the team slowly reduced the Kobold King's HP. After coordinating their attacks for several rounds, Gentle Snow was extremely astonished. She did not think there was such a way to fight against a boss. She really did not know just how Shifeng had managed to think up such a technique. However, What shocked everyone even more was the damage caused by Sherfone. The damage he caused left everyone practically dumbstruck. A single thundering flash was able to cause almost 700 total damage. Earth Splitter caused over 400 damage, while his normal attacks each caused over 100 damage. Compared to that, Gentle Snow, who was equipped with a suit of mysterious iron set equipment and a secret silver greatsword, had only managed to deal around 240 damage, even after using her most powerful skill. Seeing such a scene, everyone began to wonder, between Sherfone and Gentle Snow, just who was actually the berserker here? However, no one knew that Sherfone wielded a magic weapon in his hands. In addition to the Silvermoon set equipment and his damaging skills, which were at level 4 to level 5, the damage he could cause would naturally be exaggerated. Ranged players can start attacking now, Sherfone shouted in the team's chat after feeling that the boss' hatred had been completely stabilized. At this time, the others were woken up with a start. The mages started reading out incantations, sending out fireballs and dark arrows. Meanwhile, the rangers continuously fired off arrows from their bows, causing a series of damage to the Kobold King. Amongst all these attacks, Zhao Yueru was the person who dealt the highest damage in a single attack, which was over 100 damage. Following her, Blackie could also deal over 80 damage with each of his dark arrows, while the others only dealt 40 to 50 damage. Under Sherfeng's instructions and the constant combination attacks, the Kobold King became helpless. The Kobold King was forced to retreat, step after step, until its HP continuously decreased without pausing. From start to finish, it was constantly forced into a passive state, unable to display its true potential. After being continuously attacked for over 10 minutes, the Kobold King's HP had been reduced down to 30%. Reaching the boundary of entering a berserk state, the Kobold King's body started increasing its size, and its muscles inflated. After it goes berserk, we won't be able to hold on for long. Ranged players, stop all your attacks, and MTs prepare to activate your life-saving skills to escape. Remember to pull the boss aggro before running. Everyone else should distance yourselves from the boss. The other warriors, wait for my command to use charge. Mages who have restriction skills should all get ready. Seeing that the Kobold King was starting to go berserk, Sherfone loudly reminded. Immediately, he too distanced himself from the Kobold King. A Lord rank boss berserk was no small matter. If it was not properly dealt with, then the result would be a team wipe. Now, their chances of successfully killing the Kobold King depended on whether the two MTs were able to survive. Chapter 106 Ashblade 2. Chapter 106 Ashblade 2. Ayo! 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 The Kobold King let out an angry roar. Multiple shockwaves rolled out and struck the team, causing 60 to 70 damage to everyone with each consecutive wave. Moreover, the mages in the team were constantly forced to retreat backward by each shockwave, having no choice but to lean against a wall. Lowly ants! You dare taint this sacred ground with your presence? Receive the punishment of death! The Kobold King's enlarged foot abruptly stomped down, causing the stone ground in a 5-yard radius to crack, and sending debris flying into the air. After seeing this destructive power, the two MTs could not help but have a cold sweat seep down their backs. Fortunately, they had retreated a step earlier. Otherwise, the consequences of receiving that stomp would have been unimaginable. Just as the both of them were still celebrating, the Kobold King tightly gripped onto its great sword with both its hands. Without warning, it abruptly slashed the great sword at the two MTs from a distance. A black streak of sword aura sliced through the air, striking across the bodies of the two players, and causing more than 600 damage to each of them. A sword aura area attack? Gentle Snow wrinkled her brows. She did not think that, after the Kobold King's HP decreased to 30%, it would actually switch to attacking from a range. Moreover, the damage it dealt was still so high that even after both MTs had activated their life-saving skills, reducing the damage they took by 50%. The difficulty of raiding the Kobold King had suddenly increased by many folds. If the chieftain-rank Kobold King could carry out a similar feat, then it would be quite fortunate if her previous estimates could have even a 10% success rate. All healers heal the 2 MTs. The other ranged players, distance yourselves from the 2 MTs. MTs, pay attention to your positioning. Absolutely do not let yourselves come into range of the boss. The other warriors, prepare to use charge to restrict the boss. Shifeng immediately commanded. Before Shifeng could finish his words, the Kobold King took action. It stepped out from the debris and abruptly rushed towards the Guardian Knight, Kola, who first held its aggro. The Kobold King reached Kola in an instant. The Kobold King swung down its raised sword, the sword bringing along a fierce gale as it descended. Meanwhile, Kola, who had suffered over 600 damage from the previous attack, did not possess even half of his total HP. If he received this attack right now, he would die with 100% certainty. Following the descent of the great sword, a loud boom resounded, and a fierce gale enveloped the entire hall. Why am I still alive? Kola peeped open his eyes and discovered that his surroundings had not turned pitch black. Instead, he saw a familiar back standing in front of him. He immediately shouted in surprise, "Brother Feng! Run, quickly!" Although Shifeng had parried the attack with both his swords, the Kobold King was already prepared to swing out its sword a second time. Unable to use parry any longer, Shifeng was left with no choice but to use out one of his life-saving skills, Defensive Blade. Kola dared not stay any longer, hurriedly running away. Meanwhile, the healing spells from the 4 healers only now landed upon Kola's body, recovering him back to his full HP. After running away for about 2 yards, Kola turned his head to the sound of stone bricks exploding in his ears and saw clouds of dust rising into the air. Following which, Shifeng ran out from the dust cloud, not daring to stay even half a second longer. After all, the Berserk Kobold King possessed the capability of instant killing him. Just after Shifeng ran out of the dust cloud, the Kobold King was already hot on his heels. However, its target was not Shifeng, but the escaping Kola. Use charge to block it! Shifeng naturally would not let the Kobold King have its way. Immediately after Shifeng commanded, the 3 spectating berserkers started using charge in succession. The first charge only caused the Kobold King to pause slightly. Following it, the second charge caused it to retreat by a single step, while the third charge made it retreat by 2 steps. Although the Kobold King did not enter a fainted state, it was sufficient just by having the knockback effect. After they finished using charge, the berserkers immediately got out of the way. However, one of them was a tad bit slower, and the sword aura coming from the Kobold King's horizontal slash brushed past him. Instantly, the berserker's HP fell down to 0, his body falling flat on the ground. The shorter the distance, the greater the damage the Kobold King's sword aura attack caused. Within a distance of just 2 to 3 yards, a single strike could instant kill a full HP MT, not to mention a berserker whose HP was inferior to an MT's. However, the berserker's death was still a worthwhile sacrifice. At the very least, the felled berserker had managed to earn the team some time, allowing the 2 MTs to have a better chance of survival. The mages had also started using restriction skills to restrict the boss, allowing the 2 MTs to be more scared than hurt. Amongst the skills that best restricted the Kobold King was Blackie's Evil Whip. The Kobold King had wasted quite some time in order to escape from those thorns. The Frozen Nova from the other mages had all failed to induce a frozen effect on the Kobold King. The mages had also used it to reduce the Kobold King's speed, though the effects were minimal. Time passed bit by bit. Although Kola and Ghost Chop were chased all over the place by the Kobold King, fortunately, both of them were still able to stay alive. Finally, the Kobold King's berserk ended, returning it to its original state. However, its HP recovery speed had increased considerably when it went berserk. Its current HP was restored by more than 50%, which was over 60,000 HP. Attack it in rotation! After the Kobold King's berserk had ended, Shifeng naturally would not give the boss any leeway, immediately starting their retaliation. With the 4 of them attacking in rotation, the Kobold King was once more placed in a disadvantageous position. Furthermore, the four of them were becoming more practiced with carrying out joint attacks. After a few minutes, the Kobold King's HP had fallen to 20%. This time, the Kobold King did not go berserk. Instead, it abandoned its great sword, pulling out two blood-red, one-handed longswords that had runes carved into them. It then began madly brandishing its swords. The Kobold King transformed into a tornado that engulfed everything, and anything that came into contact with its blades turned to ashes. This move was one of the Kobold King's ultimate, Blade Storm. All berserkers use charge, then immediately retreat. Mages, use all of your restricting skills, and pay attention to avoid the tornado. Stay at least 10 yards from it. Shifeng immediately shouted. After battling up to this point, everyone in the team had become extremely trusting of Shifeng. Without hesitation, the berserkers immediately used charge. All the warriors, including Gentle Snow, rushed up to the Kobold King, ramming their bodies at the Kobold King. The mages all used Ice Sphere, while Blackie used Evil Whip. The 7 thorn vines bound both legs of the Kobold King, immediately reducing the Kobold King's speed greatly. The power of its rotation was also significantly weakened. Although the speed of the Kobold King's Blade Storm had slowed down a lot, and its might reduced slightly, there were still a few players engulfed by it, turning into meat paste in less than 2 seconds. Within the Blade Storm's duration of 15 seconds, out of the 20 players within the team, 6 had already died. Amongst them, there were 2 berserkers, 1 assassin, 1 cleric, 1 ranger, and 1 swordsman. Meanwhile, the Kobold King still had 10% of its total HP. Seeing that the 2 MTs had their HP hanging by a thread, the Kobold King followed up by slashing its 2 swords at both their necks. Just as the 2 MTs were about to meet their makers, Shifeng appeared behind the Kobold King. Abyssal Bind. Thundering Flash. Double Chop. 9 pitch-black chains bound the Kobold King, preventing it from moving even a single step. After saving the 2 MTs, Shifeng followed up with a series of slashes on the Kobold King's weak point. The speed at which he drew his swords was frighteningly fast. Gentle Snow could not help but be shocked at Shifeng's sword-drawing speed and accuracy. However, she did not halt her actions as she continued slashing at the Kobold King with her great sword. Within a short 3 seconds, everyone had taken away close to 4,000 HP from the Kobold King, plunging its HP down to a critical point. Ayo! The Kobold King was truly enraged now. Following its roar, the entire hall started trembling. This was the Kobold King's final ultimate, Death's Intimidation. The skill causes all enemies in a radius of 50 yards to fall into fear, unable to attack for a duration of 10 seconds. Suddenly, everyone had fallen into fear, blankly standing still and unable to move. At this sight, the Kobold King revealed a sneer that resembled a human's. It brandished its twin swords as it began a massacre. Within an instant, it had taken the lives of a berserker and assassin. Striking out, sword after sword, the 2 MTs were killed off as well. Meanwhile, not even 4 seconds had passed since the Kobold King had used Death's Intimidation. If the Kobold King was allowed to continue having its way, everyone would be dead when the 10 seconds were up. After half of the entire team was dead, Shifeng became the Kobold King's target. Shifeng was finally able to move. Previously, he had activated his extraordinary physique too. His resistance to fear became higher than the average player. So, the effective duration of the fear induced was also reduced by quite a lot. However, the Kobold King's sword was already descending. Unable to avoid it, Shifeng bellowed as he activated Life Shield. At the most critical moment, just as the Kobold King's great sword was about to land on Shifeng, the Abyssal Blade had managed to block off this attack. Following which, Shifeng's entire person was sent flying from it, with a damage of over 640 points appearing above his head. Fortunately, Shifeng had over 1000 HP right now. In addition to the life shield absorbing some of the damage he took, he had managed to survive the Kobold King's attack. However, the life shield was also destroyed by this attack. Seeing that Shifeng did not die, the Kobold King became flabbergasted. It then rushed towards Shifeng, wanting to give him the final blow. Phantom Kill. 9 Dragon's Slash. Shifeng's doppelganger used parry to block against the Kobold King's attack. Simultaneously, the doppelganger activated Defensive Blade and was able to delay the Kobold King for quite some time. Meanwhile, the Kobold King was receiving continuous attacks from the 9 Abyssal Blades. Its HP steadily fell, leaving it with only 1% remaining. Seeing that the cooldown for his own Defensive Blade was finished, Shifeng as well activated the skill. From a distance of 10 yards, Shifeng started attacking the Kobold King with sword auras. Damages of over 100 points kept on appearing above the Kobold King's head, taking its HP away bit by bit. After the Kobold King had managed to get rid of the doppelganger, its remaining HP did not even reach 300 points. Suddenly it threw out both of its swords, sending them piercing towards Shifeng. Unfortunately, both swords were blocked off by Shifeng's Defensive Blade. However, the Kobold King had yet to give up. It turned into a streak of shadow, appearing in front of Shifeng in the blink of an eye and sending a slap at Shifeng with its claws. At this moment, Shifeng's Thundering Flash had finished its cooldown. Blocking the sharp claws with the Crimson Blade, Shifeng slashed at the Kobold King's neck with the Abyssal Blade, the blade turning into a streak of lightning as it struck at its target. Pung! Shifeng was blasted towards a wall, with only a thread of his HP remaining. On the other hand, the Kobold King lay on the floor, motionless. Shifeng had also abruptly risen by a level, reaching level 7. A large pile of items dropped. Amongst these items, there was one that was unusually dazzling. The item released a demonic silver glow, bringing a chill to those who laid their eyes on it. Ash Blade! Shifeng was shocked after seeing this item. This thing was the legendary item of Dark Moon Graveyard. In Shifeng's previous life, he had only heard rumors of it, and never actually saw it before. Chapter 107 Moment of Glory. Chapter 107 Moment of Glory. After the Kobold King's death, everyone's fear was similarly dispelled. They all regained their freedom of movement. However, at that moment, there were only 6 members alive in the entire team. When everyone looked at the corpse of the Kobold King laying on the floor, they all had expressions of shock on their faces. Even Gentle Snow was baffled at this result. Logically speaking, they should not have been able to survive through the fear state. So, just how did the Kobold King die? However, when she looked at Shifeng standing beside the Kobold King's corpse, and furthermore, at the scant amount of HP he had remaining, realization struck Gentle Snow. Needless to say, Shifeng was definitely the one who had killed the Kobold King. The others were shocked into speechlessness. In such a situation, just what method did Shifeng use that enabled him to kill the Kobold King? Brother Feng, you are too awesome! You killed the boss, even under such a situation. You are literally my idol right now! Blackie excitedly said as he looked at Shifeng with worshipful eyes. The first clear of the hell mode of Dark Moon Valley. This was definitely a moment for excitement. This signified that they would be leaving their names on the glory list for all eternity. In the future, as long as there were players wanting to enter the Dark Moon Graveyard, their names would be on display for these players to behold and revere. At that time, they would become famous even if they didn't want to be. Alright, quickly revive the others. Shifeng, who was currently sitting on the ground, did not become too excited. He only pointed towards the members that had died. It was not nice to let them continue laying on the ground. At Shifeng's comment, Gentle Snow finally managed to recover from her shock. She looked towards the only surviving healer, Xiao Yue, and said, "Yue, quickly revive them." N. Xiao Yue nodded her head, starting to cast revival. Several minutes later, all the team members were finally resurrected. After Zhao Yue was revived, she vacantly asked, "Yue, was the team wiped out?" "Nope. We cleared it." Xiao Yue faintly smiled. As expected, it was still a team wipe." Zhao Yue shook her head, inwardly lamenting. If everyone present possessed a dispelling skill, then at the very least they would not end up being completely wiped out. To bear witness to a low HP Kobold King obtaining victory in the end. Xiao Yue could not help but let out a laugh. If she did not personally witness the Kobold King dying, she too would not have believed it. Hence, she loudly proclaimed, "Sister Yueru, the boss is already dead." "Impossible. None of us has the skill to dispel fear," Zhao Yueru said with confidence. "Even if we wait for the fear to end, the remaining members would not be able to get rid of the boss. If you don't believe it, look over there. The Kobold King was killed off by Big Brother Yifeng in the end. You don't know just how dangerous of a situation Big Brother Yifeng was in at the time. He went all out in the last strike, intending to die together with the Kobold King. In the end, he barely survived with only 16 HP remaining." Xiao Yuer pointed towards the corpse of the Kobold King in the distance, admiration in her voice as she recounted Shifeng's feats. Zhao Yueru turned her head around. Sure enough, it was the corpse of the Kobold King. Zhao Yueru tilted her head, her beautiful eyes sizing up Shifeng's back. She discovered that Shifeng was truly a mysterious person. The way he had commanded the team before was as if a veteran general of many years commanding his team. Every line of command he gave out was extremely precise, and even the positioning of each member was clearly stated. Just how was he an independent player? Even a team leader of a guild who often went dungeon diving would not be able to replicate his feats. Shifeng was simply inconceivable. Now, Shifeng had even landed the final strike that defeated the Kobold King, his strength powerful to the degree of leaving others speechless. Observing capabilities, commanding capabilities, battle techniques. Shifeng was practically standing at the peak in all these aspects. Shifeng had broken every understanding she had of him. Truly an evil bastard. Zhao Yueru lightly bit down on her lips, her heart filled with displeasure as she looked at Shifeng. She felt that Shifeng was definitely toying with her. She could not help but wish that she could give Shifeng a few bites to relieve her anger. However, Zhao Yueru only had thoughts of doing so. She would not truly carry out such an action. Only after everyone had gathered did Shifeng begin to tidy up the loot from the Kobold King. Looking at loot, each and every one of the team members anxiously waited for Shifeng to complete his task. These things were all items that only dropped from the boss of the Helm mode of Dark Moon Graveyard. Every one of them was completely priceless. "I'm done arranging them. There are a total of 8 pieces of equipment and 6 other items. Amongst these are 2 pieces of secret silver weapons, a level 5 great sword and a level 5 shield. There are also 2 independent pieces of secret silver equipment, one is for clerics, the other is for swordsmen. The remaining 4 pieces of equipment are all pieces of mysterious iron set equipment. We will decide by rolling if more than one person needs the same piece of equipment." Shifeng gave a general introduction of the items. At the same time, he shared the information for everyone to observe. Runic sword, secret silver rank, 2-handed sword. Level 5. Equipment requirement, strength 30. Attack power plus 45. Strength plus 9, endurance plus 8. Attack speed plus 1. When attacking, there is a 10% chance to cause a heavy impact effect and 10% armor destruction effect. Runic shield, secret silver rank. Level 5. Equipment requirement, strength 23. Defense plus 69. Block rate 35%. Strength plus 6, endurance plus 10. Additional skill dash. Tough shield, when activated, reduces the damage taken from the front by 30%. Duration of 10 seconds. Cooldown, 2 minutes. Everyone was stunned after seeing the attributes on these equipment pieces. Every piece of equipment was a top-tier item. Amongst them, the runic sword and runic shield were the absolute best. If they were to be sold right now, they would sell for 80 silver coins, at the very least. However, they definitely would not sell any of these items. With good equipment in hand, they would have an easier time leveling up later on. Only an idiot would be dumb enough to sell them. Following which, everyone on the team began madly rolling for points as they competed over the equipment. In the end, the runic sword fell into the hands of Gentle Snow, while the runic shield went to Kola. Shifeng also obtained a secret silver pauldron, greatly increasing his attributes once more. Then next would be the other items. We will hold an internal auction for them. Highest bidder wins, Shurfong said. Hearing Shurfong saying so, the members of Ouroboros felt slightly embarrassed. They knew that the worth of the other items surpassed these pieces. It was especially true for that dazzling, broken blade called Ash Blade. Just judging from the introduction of that item was enough to excite a person. Moreover, there was also a piece of advanced whetstone recipe and a few more rare materials. Every one of them was priceless. However, if it were not for Shurfong, just how would they be able to even clear the hell mode of Dark Moon Graveyard? Furthermore, they had obtained so much top-tier equipment, greatly improving themselves. Right now, they were already leading the other guilds by a large margin. So, how could they not feel shame fighting over these items with Shurfong? Gentle Snow had naturally considered this point. Moreover, she had wanted to pull Shurfong into Ouroboros herself, so naturally she had to deepen her relationship with Shurfong. Hence, she looked towards Shurfong, taking the initiative as she said, "We were only able to conquer the Dark Moon Graveyard due to your great contribution. We have already received enough, so the other items will all belong to you. I can't even begin to thank you enough." The other members of Ouroboros all nodded their heads in quick succession. Shurfong was slightly astonished. He did not think that Gentle Snow would actually give up on the auction. Although, he also was not afraid of having an auction. He had plenty of gold coins inside of his bag, enough to buy out both the advanced whetstone recipe and the ash blade. Since Gentle Snow did not wish to compete, he naturally would not refuse her offer. He stowed all of the items into his bag. With the dungeon conquered and the loot distributed, Shurfong walked towards a corner of the mausoleum. He then activated the mechanism to trigger the teleportation gate. Everyone walked into the teleportation gate, disappearing from the large hall of the mausoleum one after another. Just after everyone had left from the Dark Moon Graveyard. White River City Region System Announcement. Congratulations to Ouroboros for becoming the first team to conquer the Hell mode of Dark Moon Graveyard. All players within the team will be rewarded with 10 reputation points in White River City. Red Leaf Town Region System Announcement. Congratulations to Ouroboros for becoming the first team to conquer the Hell mode of Dark Moon Graveyard. All players within the team will be rewarded with 30 reputation points in Red Leaf Town. System. Congratulations to Ouroboros for becoming the first team to conquer the Hell mode of Dark Moon Graveyard. All players within the team will be rewarded with 1 mysterious treasure chest, 50,000 EXP, and 10 glory points. Chapter 108 Shaking the Four Corners. Chapter 108 Shaking the Four Corners. Outside the Dark Moon Graveyard. This dungeon is just impossible. Without an average level of 10, who would be able to clear it? Flaming Tiger, who had just revived out of the dungeon, cursed. In all 3 times he had entered the Dark Moon Graveyard, not once had he even found the location of the dungeon's boss before his entire team dropped dead. This dungeon was just toying with them. Everywhere inside the dungeon was filled with elite monsters. Even if they killed some, there was still an endless stream of monsters to slowly grind them to death. It was absolutely frustrating. John Luaway raised his thick brows, his complexion gloomy as he looked back toward the teleportation gate of the Dark Moon Graveyard in the distance. With such lack of progress, it had long since passed the point of just making a loss. If this situation continued, it would be detrimental to the team's future development. Everyone rest up for a while. We can't continue wasting our time here. I'm guessing that the progress of the other guilds isn't that good either. They should have died several times as well, already. Let's take this chance when the other guilds are focusing on the Dark Moon Graveyard to raid the level 5 party dungeon and lava cavern in separate groups. In any case, they won't be able to conquer this team dungeon. We can also use this time to increase our levels quickly, John Luaway said, choosing to give up on the Dark Moon Graveyard. Although leaving their names on the glory list would be a quick way to raise the fame and influence of their guild, it was an entirely different matter if everyone was similarly unable to conquer the dungeon. The only other thing they could compete in were in terms of average level and equipment of the guild's elite members, and also in terms of who could set foot into White River City the earliest. In fact, it wasn't just the members of Shadow that were faced with such a situation. All the guilds in the entire White River City were currently trapped in this suffering known as team dungeons. Nobody had thought that the team dungeon's difficulty would be so high, leaving them utterly helpless. The virtual reality games in the past usually had less monsters than players inside of dungeons. In God's Domain, however, the number of monsters inside the dungeons greatly outnumbered that of the players. It was a number that was simply impossible to cope with. Even if they increased the number of MTs and healers they brought with, it would still be a useless endeavor. After some time had passed, the second-rate guild, Assassin's Alliance, had also died out from the dungeon with dejection covering their faces. "What's gotten into all of you? It's just a few deaths. Don't forget, for each time we die, we will gain significant progress. We will be able to clear the dungeon sooner or later, so stop feeling dejected. Right now, we should try to think up a method to get through the fog. After some rest, we will try to raid the dungeon one more time today," Stabbing Heart said inside the team chat. Being encouraged by Stabbing Heart like this, the team members regained quite a lot of their confidence. They all started voicing out their ideas and suggestions, intending to conquer the Dark Moon Graveyard at all costs. White River City Region System Announcement. Congratulations to Ouroboros for becoming the first team to conquer the Hell mode of Dark Moon Graveyard. All players within the team will be rewarded with 10 reputation points in White River City. Red Leaf Town Region System Announcement. Congratulations to Ouroboros for becoming the first team to conquer the Hell mode of Dark Moon Graveyard. All players within the team will be rewarded with 30 reputation points in Red Leaf Town. Just as the various guilds were considering whether they should give up raiding the Dark Moon Graveyard, 2 consecutive system announcements immediately attracted the attention of every guild within White River City. Meanwhile, when the players of Red Leaf Town heard of this system announcement, they were first filled with shock, but they were soon cheering and shouting in worship. "Ouroboros is just too awesome! They're practically inhuman! I heard that the Snow Goddess was the one who led the dungeon raiding team. My goddess is just too powerful!" The other guilds haven't even cleared the normal mode, but the goddess has already cleared Hell mode. This won't do. I want to join Ouroboros. I would be satisfied even if I could become the goddess servant. The players in Red Leaf Town had all started conversing about Ouroboros and the Snow Goddess. Aside from worship, they were also filled with awe. Simultaneously, the entire region of White River City was sent into a cacophony of noise. What kind of joke is this? We can't even manage to find the boss of the normal mode, so just how did Ouroboros manage to even clear the Hell mode? The guild leader of Emerald Dragon Gate slammed on the desk as he cursed. Could the team dungeon in Red Leaf Town possibly be easier? Then Stabbing Heart should have, at the very least, cleared the normal mode already. The guild leader of the Assassin's Alliance entered deep thought after looking at the system announcement. While all the large guilds were still having headaches over obtaining a town region announcement for themselves, as if trying to take their lives, a city region announcement had appeared. The upper echelons of the various guilds suddenly felt an immense pressure weighing on them, pushing them to accelerate their raiding progress quickly. However, such a pressure did not come from the fact that the Snow Goddess had managed to clear the Hell mode of a team dungeon. Instead, it came from the fact that the influence of the system announcement was simply too huge. In merely a moment, the system announcement had placed Ouroboros at the summit of White River City. Players who were new to God's Domain did not possess extensive knowledge about the strengths of the various guilds in existence. However, what they did know was that Ouroboros was definitely the best guild in White River City. They couldn't help but admit that the Snow Goddess performance was just too dazzling. Compared to the guild leader of Ouroboros himself, who had a large number of experts under him in Starmoon City, the Snow Goddess was much more formidable. A short moment after the appearance of this system announcement, all the upper echelons of the guilds within Starmoon Kingdom discovered that they had underestimated the Snow Goddess' ability. Fortunately, the Snow Goddess was not tasked around the area of Starmoon City. Otherwise, the consequences for them would be unimaginable. Meanwhile, Gentle Snow herself remained unaware of what was currently happening in the various regions of God's Domain. She was still busy looking at the glory list together with Sherfone and the others. The glory list, which was made up of obsidian stone, was 3 meters in height and 2 meters in width. On it, the names of Gentle Snow and the other team members were already carved. Moreover, their names were carved at an extraordinarily eye-catching location, at the very top of the glory list. On the first line of the glory list, the word Ouroboros was carved in big scarlet characters. Meanwhile, below Ouroboros, the names of every team member were recorded in smaller-sized, silvery white characters. Brother Foam, look! We're on the list! We're on the list! Blackie was close to shedding tears of excitement after seeing his own name up on the glory list. After playing games for so many years, not once had he ever enjoyed such an honor. However, it wasn't just Blackie who behaved in such a way. The other members of Sherfang's party were similarly excited. They all rejoiced at being able to follow after Sherfang, becoming official members of Zero Wing Workshop. Meanwhile, the various guilds standing in the distance all looked towards the glory list with eyes full of envy. For as long as future players arrived at the Dark Moon Graveyard, they would inevitably see these names, giving their admiration and worship. On the other hand, the upper echelons of the various guilds present had instead looked towards the icy cold, gentle snow, expressions of respect and helplessness appearing on their faces. Everyone was clear about the difficulty of the Dark Moon Graveyard. Absolutely none of them would think that the Hell mode of Dark Moon Graveyard was easier than the normal mode. At the very least, the difficulty in Hell mode would be several times higher. However, despite all odds, the team led by Gentle Snow had succeeded in raiding it. Moreover, she had even brought along a few independent players instead of bringing along the strongest team in her guild. The Snow Goddess had clearly surpassed them in terms of leadership and personal strength by leaps and bounds. They were on two completely different levels. Up to this point, these upper echelons had all begun to think that their luck was just too poor. Being tasked in the same town as the Snow Goddess had sealed their fates at becoming merely the grass that sets off the color of her flower. We will need to wait 3 more days before being able to enter the Dark Moon Graveyard again. During this time, would you be interested in joining us in raiding the Goblin Factory? Gentle Snow earnestly invited Sherfone. Although Gentle Snow's voice was not loud, the outside of the Dark Moon Graveyard was extremely quiet. Even from a distance, her voice could very clearly be heard. The upper echelons of the various guilds were all dumbfounded. Just who was this Sherfone exactly? The Snow Goddess was actually inviting him from one dungeon raid to another. Could the Snow Goddess have possibly fallen for him? However, why would the highly haughty Snow Goddess fall for such an unattractive brat? Moreover, the person did not possess even the slightest hint of an expert. Meanwhile, standing at a distance, Flaming Tiger's eyes had nearly popped out of his sockets, going crazy from envy. Not only was Sherfone able to be in the same team as the Snow Goddess, he was even able to leave his name on the glory list. Flaming Tiger's hatred for Sherfone immediately increased by hundreds of folds. Just as everyone was shocked at such a scene, hundreds of players suddenly appeared and surrounded Sherfone and his team, each and every one of them filled with a murderous intent. "Brat, we meet again." Ironsword Lion slowly walked out from the tide of players, sending Sherfone a cold glare as he sneered. Chapter 109 Domineering Ironsword. Chapter 109 Domineering Ironsword. __. This moment. Ironsword Lion had waited for too long. He was unable to suppress the excitement in his heart. Previously, after failing the dungeon raid, he chose to give up on the endeavor. Instead, he camped outside the Dark Moon Graveyard. However, he was greatly shocked when Sherfone and the others safely exited the dungeon, followed by the emergence of the system announcements. Although Martial Union had entered the Dark Moon Graveyard, they did not gain a single thing from it. On the other hand, not only had Sherfang's team managed to clear the dungeon, but it was also the hard mode of Dark Moon Graveyard. Although Ironsword Lion was a brute, he still knew that the gains from clearing the Dark Moon Graveyard would not be meager. Needless to say, the harvest from Hell mode would be even more astonishing. When Martial Union first set foot in God's domain, They did not possess any significant wealth or resources. Moreover, they were unfamiliar with a game such as God's Domain. Developing a guild was extremely challenging. They had to grow by competing over elite monsters, killing well-equipped players for equipment and money, and raiding party dungeons. The larger their guild became, the more wealth and resources they needed. However, they were unable to find any sources of income, only relying on robbery to sustain their guild's operation. Now that Shifeng and his team had cleared the dungeon, it was undoubtedly good news for Ironsword Lion. Not only would he be able to obtain revenge, but he would also be able to make a huge profit out of it, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Boss Ironsword, look at the shield on their guardian knight. Not only are there runes carved on it, but the shield is also giving off a faint violet hue that only secret silver equipment possess. That is definitely equipment they obtained from the Dark Moon Graveyard. Boss, look at that brat's pauldrons. It is also giving off a violet hue. It is a secret silver equipment as well. The subordinates behind Ironsword Lion salivated as they pointed towards the equipment on the bodies of Shifeng's party members. The worst equipment currently worn by Shifeng's party members were bronze-ranked, while there were even some who had mysterious iron equipment. However, they clearly did not possess the equipment before they entered the dungeon. Hence, they must have obtained them from within the Dark Moon Graveyard, which also meant that all of them were level 5 mysterious iron equipment and secret silver equipment. Every piece of the equipment was priceless. Boss, if we were to steal all of the equipment and sell them, it would solve the problem of developing our guild. Drifting Blood looked towards Shifeng's equipment, giggling as he spoke. Ironsword Lion nodded, thinking that Drifting Blood's words made sense. The main reason their guild was developing slowly right now was due to their lack of funds. If they stole all of the equipment worn by Shifeng's party, then the problem of their lack of funds would be solved. Although Shifeng's strength was not bad, even rising up to level 7, when faced with over 100 players, what more could he do? Brat, don't even think of escaping today. Be smart and hand over all your equipment, compensate me with 10 gold coins, and let me kill you back to level 0. Then I'll consider this matter settled. Otherwise, prepare to delete your account and start all over. Ironsword Lion glared at Shifeng, sneering. Shifeng looked at his surroundings, discovering that Ironsword Lion had brought over 130 players with him. Amongst them, a majority of the players were around level 3, their equipment terribly poor. There were only slightly more than 30 players who had reached level 5, while the equipment they were using was all bronze equipment. Meanwhile, Ironsword Lion was the strongest out of all of these players. He was wearing a suit of level 4 bronze set equipment. In a moment, employ a hit-and-run tactic as we run towards the forest. Their numbers are too great right now, so it would be bad if we get surrounded, Shifeng said inside the team's chat. Good. My hands have been itching to PK someone for quite some time now. Blackie rubbed his fists as he spoke. The other members of Shifeng's party all started laughing. They had long since wanted to test out the prowess of their new equipment. They intended to kill to their heart's desire. If they could each kill 2 players, it would be a 2-for-1 profit. If they could kill 3 or more, they would make a huge profit. At this moment, Gentle Snow stood out from the team and looked towards Ironsword Lion, softly saying, Yifeng is a friend of mine. I wonder if you can give Ouroboros some face and forget about this matter? Everyone from Ouroboros could already tell that the players from Martial Union were here for revenge, Shifeng being their target. They wondered just what Shifeng had done to enrage them. Was he trying to battle an entire guild just by himself? As expected, every expert would have their own unique personalities. Even Shifeng was no exception to this fact. However, Martial Union was just an unrated guild. Since Ouroboros had already shown themselves, as long as the upper echelons of Martial Union had some brains, they should naturally know to back off. After all, Ouroboros was much stronger than Martial Union. Move aside, stupid hoe! I don't give a damn about Ouroboros. If you wish to help this brat, I'll take care of you all the same. Ironsword Lion cursed in a bad mood. Although Gentle Snow was indeed a world-shaking beauty, the equipment she wore was even more dazzling. It was especially true for the black runic greatsword in her hands. Just a simple glance at it, and one could tell that it was a high-quality secret silver weapon. It just so happened that he was also in need of such a weapon. Moreover, if he got rid of Gentle Snow, he would be able to spread his name throughout God's domain. It was killing multiple birds with a single stone. However, what Ironsword Lion did not know was that, because of his casual remark, the entire Dark Moon graveyard had entered a solemn state. Each and every player present looked towards Ironsword Lion in shock, inwardly admiring Ironsword Lion for his courage. "Then, does that mean that you intend to start a war with Ouroboros?" Gentle Snow's expression sunk, her tone abruptly turned chilly as she asked. Although Gentle Snow casually spoke those words, the frostiness her words gave off could be felt, even by those uninvolved. The members of Ouroboros similarly remained silent, not daring to let out even a sound as they watched Gentle Snow. Gentle Snow's angered appearance, none of them had seen it before, nor did they wish to see it. Right now, however, there was a fool that actually dared to curse at Gentle Snow. This was the first time they had witnessed such a scene. They no longer dared imagine what would happen. "Bitch, the others may fear your Ouroboros, but not me." Ironsword Lion licked his lips, his eyes filled with greed as he looked at the attractive equipment on Gentle Snow's body. However, he remembered that he wanted to kill Sherfong the most. He then turned his sights towards Sherfong, loudly saying, "Brat, don't think that, with a bitch protecting you, you'll be able to survive through today. Rest assured, I won't let either of you get away. Brothers, go! Kill them and we'll share all of their equipment." Suddenly, over 100 players rushed at Sherfong and his team, murder in their eyes. Ironsword Lion even took the lead as he charged towards Sherfong, no longer able to hold back his treasured sword. Only by drenching it with Sherfang's blood would it be able to achieve satisfaction. "Hit and run as we head towards the forest. Don't overextend yourselves." Sherfong unsheathed his pair of swords, once more commanding through the team chat. Just after Blackie and the others had taken a few steps, they suddenly discovered that Gentle Snow and the members of Ouroboros remained unmoving, intending to face the players from Martial Union head-on. They truly did not know what was going through Gentle Snow's head. However, since Gentle Snow was sticking up for Sherfong, naturally, Sherfong could not escape into the forest to carry out guerrilla warfare. Blackie and the others also looked towards Sherfong with questioning gazes. Sherfong sighed, helplessly saying, "Kola, you hold the front, and remember not to extend yourself too far out. Drowsy Sloth, pay attention to healing the others. Blackie, use Health Flame in the areas with more people. Gluttonous Mouse, stay behind and kill the ones with low HP. Lonely Snow, you're with me." Before both sides collided with each other, the enemy's magic had already struck at Sherfong and the others. Fireballs and frost arrows struck at the team, one after another. Ghost Chop stood in the front as he held off against the attacks. Kola, as well, rushed up in time. He raised the runic shield and activated Tough Shield. At the same time as the enemy magic landed on both Ghost Chop and Kola's shields, the heals coming from behind them similarly landed. Each of the magical attacks caused -20 to -30 damage to Ghost Chop, whereas Kola only received damages of over -10 points. The highest damage Kola received was only over -30 points. Moreover, the attack was from a level 5 elementalist who was fully geared in bronze equipment. As the heals landed on the two MTs, both their HPs were instantly recovered to full. The members of Martial Union were immediately dumbstruck after seeing this sight. It was especially true for the level 5 elementalist. Normally, a single flame explosion from him could deal over -100 damage to an MT. However, when used on Kola, the skill only caused around -30 damage. Kola's defense was just too high. Chapter 110 Drenching Dark Moon in Blood. Chapter 110 Drenching Dark Moon in Blood. Kola and Ghost Chop's defenses were just too high. In addition, the 4 healers behind them were similarly strong. The attacks from the mages of Martial Union had absolutely no effect on the 2 MTs. As for attacking the other members, with the 2 MTs blocking up front, Martial Union had no way of attacking them at all. Don't panic, just keep killing. We outnumber them by 6 to 1. We'll kill them, even if we have to throw bodies at them. Assassins, circle around and kill the healers. Ironsword Lion was similarly having a headache towards the two MTs. However, his many years of battle experience allowed him to quickly think of a solution. At that moment, the team announcement for Ouroboros rang out. System: Team Martial Union has initiated an attack against your team. For the next 2 hours, all members within the team are be able to freely retaliate without receiving any punishment. Without the need to worry about becoming a red player, everyone became much more motivated. You dare initiate a war against us, Ouroboros? None of you know the immensity of heaven and earth. All of you die. The flame witch, Zhao Yueru, could finally display her frightening might. After her hand traced out the final incantation in the air, one of her ultimate skill, Frost Flame Explosions, activated. Magic struck Martial Union's MT, causing a series of damages over -200 points and instantly reduced his HP to a critical level. However, shortly after, the healers of Martial Union quickly pulled their MT's HP back up. Fire Dragon's Roar! Zhao Yueru revealed a smile as she finished chanting her incantation. She lightly pointed a finger at that MT, causing the fire mana in her surroundings to gather at the tip of her finger. In the blink of an eye, a gigantic fire dragon appeared and rushed at that MT, devouring him whole. Even with over half of his HP remaining, the MT of Martial Union instantly died. SS. The melee players of Martial Union all sucked in a cold breath. The MT that had just fallen was Martial Union's core MT. He was equipped with a complete set of level 4 bronze set equipment, and he was also using a level 5 bronze shield. The top mages within the guild could only cause -80 to -90 damage to him. Now, even though there were healers healing him, he was still killed in 2 moves. Just how high was that female elementalist's damage? During Martial Union's momentary pause, Blackie had finished chanting the incantation of Hell Flame. Immediately, pillars of green-colored flame appeared amongst the areas with a high density of players. The pillars of flame that shot towards the sky caused over -300 damage each second to every player, and within an instant, over 10 players lost their lives. The players from Martial Union were all dumbfounded at this sight. A single spell killed over 10 players. Just how were they supposed to contend against this? Don't be afraid. Spread out a bit. They'll be finished as long as we can get close to them. Ironsword Lion shouted confidently. The members of Martial Union felt what Ironsword Lion said was logical. They then continued charging towards the group from Ouroboros, starting a melee battle. The players from Martial Union were many, and very quickly, they surrounded everyone from Ouroboros. Gentle Snow raised her sword, immediately using charge to send 3 players flying. With a wave of the runic sword, Gentle Snow used Cleave, dealing over -450 damage to the 6 level 3 players that rushed at her. As a result, all 6 of those players directly fell. The players from Martial Union did not know just how frightening a berserker with 50 strength was. With just 20 strength, a berserker could snap a common weapon in half with only their bare hands. If a berserker had 50 strength, one could just imagine how frightening they were. After killing the first wave of players, Gentle Snow rushed headlong into the crowd. Like a flood dragon entering the ocean, Gentle Snow wreaked havoc amidst Martial Union. A fierce gale unfolded as Gentle Snow used Whirlwind Slash. The players within a 5-yard radius around her were all sent flying upwards, and damages of over -500 points appeared above their heads. The players crashed heavily into the ground, becoming deader than dead. The healers standing at the backlands could not even manage to heal them before they were slaughtered. The players from Martial Union who surrounded Gentle Snow were scared to a tremble. The aura Gentle Snow emanated was just too frightening, snatching away their courage. As for the other players from Martial Union, every one of them were still valiantly attacking, using their skills on the members of Ouroboros. However, each of their attacks only managed to cause -40 to -50 damage. On the other hand, a single hit from the players of Ouroboros took away over half of their HP. Just 2 hits left them dead, and not even the healers could manage to save them in time. The players from Martial Union quickly discovered a problem, that, although they had the advantage of numbers on their side, the majority of them were all new players to God's domain. In other words, they were noobs. Not only was the difference in their levels huge, the gap in their equipment was even more ridiculous. Only the elites of Martial Union could barely contend with the members of Ouroboros. Meanwhile, on the side of Ouroboros, there was the beauty of a cleric that always gave out a heal and truth shield at the most crucial of moments, saving the members of Ouroboros from death. As a result, the members of Martial Union went mad with frustration. However, even though they wished to kill off this cleric, the person, herself, was constantly being protected by 2 assassins. As long as any player rushed at the group, a chain of attacks from the 2 assassins would massacre them. In the end, the members of Martial Union were caught in a stalemate. They could neither advance nor retreat. All assassins use stealth and get rid of their healers. Without healers, their deaths are all but guaranteed. Ironsword Lion bellowed in the team chat. If half a dozen assassins from Martial Union could sneak over with stealth, they could easily kill off a cleric if they joined hands with each other. Drifting Blood, where is that brat? I want to personally kill him myself. Ironsword Lion asked in a rage. He glanced at the surroundings, but failed to discover Shifeng's figure at all. Their losses from this battle today would definitely be huge, and all of it was due to Shifeng. Ironsword Lion would naturally not let Shifeng escape. Boss Ironsword, I don't see the brat here either. He seems to have vanished. Drifting Blood anxiously replied. Find him. He must be found. Ironsword Lion's rage burned. The person he wanted to kill the most had disappeared. If this news were to spread, he would definitely become a laughingstock. At this moment, Shifeng had already snuck to Martial Union's backline through the use of Shadow of Nothingness. This location should be it. Shifeng looked at the surrounding terrain. He then cancelled the Shadow of Nothingness, suddenly appearing some distance behind the healers of Martial Union. Meanwhile, the healers of Martial Union were currently busy healing the players on the front lines, failing to discover Shifeng's appearance. Wind Blade. Shifeng turned into a fierce gale, sweeping towards the healers of Martial Union. While in the middle of chanting a prayer, a male cleric suddenly found a pitch-black sword piercing through his chest. Following which, he felt a burst of pain at his neck before the sight before him turned dull gray. Under Shifeng's blade, a level 5 cloth-armored cleric was no different than a piece of paper. A normal strike from Shifeng's sword was able to cause over -330 damage. With just two basic attacks, Shifeng could kill off a single cleric. If he were to use a skill, he could practically kill a cleric with every attack. Ah! There's an assassin! The female cleric nearby screamed when she witnessed this scene. She did not think that the male cleric would die so quickly or so cruelly. Yifeng! Ironsword Lion immediately turned his head towards the backlands, discovering Shifeng rapidly harvesting their healers, just like sheep entering a tiger's mouth. Ironsword Lion's eyes nearly cracked open in rage at this sight. He loudly bellowed as he rushed at Shifeng. Unfortunately, Shifeng's speed was extremely fast. The healers held no chance of escaping Shifeng's blades. In mere moments, Shifeng claimed more than 10 healers' lives. Without healers, the front line of Martial Union started to quickly crumble as Gentle Snow and the others butchered them. Die! Ironsword Lion's eyes turned crimson red. He used Wind Blade, his sword stabbing towards Shifeng's back. Now that their healers were all dead, it was needless to say that they would lose this battle. Meanwhile, Shifeng was the main perpetrator for all of this. If he did not kill Shifeng, he vowed not to be a human. After annihilating all the healers, Shifeng currently picked up the equipment they dropped. When he discovered Ironsword Lion rushing over, he did not even turn his head as he tightened his grip on the abyssal blade. Then, with a twist of his body, Shifeng slashed the abyssal blade down at Ironsword Lion's pair of swords. Pun! Ironsword Lion was forced to retreat several steps before he managed to stabilize his body, his face filled with shock as he looked at Shifeng. Shifeng's casual swing of his sword forced Ironsword Lion into retreating so many steps. Such a feat was absolutely impossible without a huge difference regarding strength. After reaching level 7, Shifeng placed all his free attribute points into strength. Shifeng's strength was even higher than Gentle Snow's, not to mention Ironsword Lion's, who had only average equipment. However, Ironsword Lion did not know this. After knocking Ironsword Lion back with a single slash, Shifeng gave Ironsword Lion no time to think before following up with a double chop. Shifeng's pair of swords instantly transformed into 4 sword images, slashing towards Ironsword Lion. With this many sword images sweeping towards him, although Ironsword Lion tried to block all of them with all his might, he only managed to block 2 of them. There were still 2 sword images that pierced his body, each causing -180 damage. Ironsword Lion hurriedly retreated, taking out a basic recovery potion and drinking it. Seeing that he was no match for Shifeng, Ironsword Lion tried to turn tail and run. However, within a split second, 3 lightning flashes entered his eyes. Before his body could even defend against the streaks of lightning, damages of -266, -352, and -463 appeared above his head. Ironsword Lion instantly died under Shifeng's swords. At his death, Ironsword Lion dropped a piece of equipment and 1 other item. Chapter 111 Dragon Hidden in the Abyss. Chapter 111 Dragon Hidden in the Abyss. Boss Ironsword! Boss! When a few players from Martial Union saw that Ironsword Lion was easily taken care of, they were all incomparably shocked. They had all personally witnessed Ironsword Lion's great strength before, capable of killing players as though he was merely cutting up vegetables. Now, however, that Ironsword Lion had actually been killed by Shifeng in just a few moves, it was truly an incomprehensible sight. The upper echelons of the various guilds looking from afar were similarly tongue-tied from this scene. Only Stabbing Heart was well aware of Shifeng's strength. The moment Ironsword Lion had provoked Shifeng, Stabbing Heart knew that the Martial Union in Red Leaf Town was finished. However, the others present did not know this fact. Regardless of what anyone said, Ironsword Lion had created much fame for himself within Red Leaf Town. Previously, they had only heard of Ironsword Lion being ambushed by Shifeng, dying an accidental death. If it were a head-on fight, however, Ironsword Lion would definitely be the victor. Yet, nobody could have imagined that, in a straightforward exchange, Ironsword Lion was easily defeated in just a few moves. As expected, rumors could not be trusted. Looking at the speed and accuracy at which Shifeng drew his swords, creating 4 sword images with just 2 swords, even those in the various guild upper echelons would not be able to block off all those attacks. In addition to Shifeng's excessively high attack power, Ironsword Lion was definitely not his opponent. Shifeng was no ordinary swordsman. It was no wonder why the Snow Goddess would stick out and defend him. I had originally thought that Ironsword Lion would be a huge competition to us. Now that I'm looking at him, he is but an upstart from another small virtual reality game. I never thought that he would be such a brain-dead fool, biting at whoever he meets. Martial Union is finished this time. First, he went and provoked such a top-tier expert. Now, he has even blindly declared war against the Snow Goddess. Did he think mingling in God's domain was so easy? It would be enough if he were to be a fool in reality. Now, he is even showing it in God's domain. As expected of someone that came from a minor game. He truly does not know the immensity of heaven and earth. Martial Union will definitely have to remove their name from Red Leaf Town now. There were plenty of workshops and guilds entering God's domain every day. Similarly, there were also plenty of workshops and guilds who had vanished from God's domain every day. This was a common occurrence within God's domain. After Ironsword Lion died, there was no longer anyone to command the players from Martial Union. Very quickly, turmoil ensued amongst the players from Martial Union, and all of them started madly running away for their lives. Shifeng naturally would not let go of this chance to give Martial Union a huge blow. Immediately after picking up the loot dropped by Ironsword Lion, Shifeng activated Windwalk and hunted the remaining players. Ignoring the level 3 noobs, Shifeng specifically chased after the elite players of Martial Union. With every kill of these players, Shifeng would be able to obtain a piece of bronze equipment, causing a significant loss to Martial Union. Drifting Blood, we meet again. Shifeng blocked off the escape path of several Martial Union elites, discovering a person he was familiar with amongst them. It was Drifting Blood, the person who had harassed Violet Cloud, and had then gone on to seek trouble with Shifeng. Drifting Blood was shocked into a jump. He trembled as he pointed a finger at Shifeng, timidly saying, "Yifeng, you shameless bastard! What kind of expert are you, to bully 4 people with one?" Without speaking any further, Shifeng stepped forward, slashing both of his blades. 8 sword images appeared, immediately aiming for the lives of the 4 players. A shield warrior amongst the 4 immediately activated Shield Wall, prepared to receive Shifeng's attack. Meanwhile, Drifting Blood had used Chop at Shifeng, while another Berserker used Charge, and a Cursemancer used Dark Arrow. Shifeng noticed that the cooperation between the 4 was very good. It would not be beneficial for him if he were to receive their attacks forcefully. Deciding so, Shifeng used Phantom Kill, his doppelganger blocking the attacks in front of him. Shifeng then hurriedly turned his body, his feet carrying out an illusory footwork as they left behind afterimages. Meanwhile, Shifeng's doppelganger had continuously fended off the attacks of the 4 players, receiving some damage in the process as well. However, after Shifeng himself moved to a side, he abruptly waved the Abyssal Blade. The 3 streaks of lightning from Thundering Flash had struck at the 3 melee players that were battling against his doppelganger, instantly killing Drifting Blood and the other Berserker. As the Shield Warrior had Shield Wall activated, he was able to barely survive the attack. However, Shifeng's doppelganger had taken the chance to use a chop on the Shield Warrior. Now only the Cursemancer, who was in the midst of chanting, remained. Shifeng used Wind Blade, dashing up to the Cursemancer like a fierce gale. Seeing this scene, the Cursemancer was frightened into a run. However, Shifeng had used Chop, his sword slashing down on the Cursemancer's back, causing a critical hit of -1156 damage and instantly killing the Cursemancer. With the difference, in terms of equipment and battle techniques, Shifeng was able to bring an end to the battle quickly. After looting the equipment dropped by the 4 players, Shifeng continued hunting for the other elite players from Martial Union. 10 minutes later, all the elite players from Martial Union were dead. The damage caused to Martial Union this time was absolutely devastating. It was practically impossible for them to contend with the other guilds for dominance over Red Leaf Town now. "Miss Snow, thank you for help today. Otherwise, our losses would be immeasurable." Shifeng expressed his gratitude towards Gentle Snow. Even if he could kill off many players in a battle against Martial Union, and even escaping in the end, his other party members would definitely have died. "It's nothing. Just a minor effort. Although Martial Union's losses are devastating in Red Leaf Town, there are still members of Martial Union in other towns. When everyone is gathered at White River City at level 10, that version of Martial Union will not be as easy to deal with as this small group." Gentle Snow softly said, "I see that you're just an independent player without any guilds to rely on. If you do not have any large guilds protecting you, you would easily become a target for Martial Union. Why don't you join Ouroboros?" "Right, big brother Yifeng. With Ouroboros' strength, by the time we reach White River City, even the people from first-rate guilds would not dare to provoke us. Moreover, our guild gives out extremely good benefits," Xiao Yue commented. "Many thanks for Miss Snow's worries. However, I'm too used to freedom, so I never had any intentions to join a guild before." Shifeng straightforwardly rejected the invitation. Although Ouroboros was a good guild, they similarly had a lot of problems. Take Gentle Snow, for example. She was clearly the first vice leader of the guild, yet she had still left Ouroboros in the end, just like how Shifeng himself was casually chased away from Shadow. At the end of the day, it was still best to hold his decision rights in his own hands. Since that is your way of thinking, I won't try to insist that you join us. However, if you ever change your mind in the future, Ouroboros would welcome you anytime. Gentle Snow could naturally see through Shifeng's thoughts. However, everyone had their own ambitions, and it would not do well for her to force the situation. Right now, it was enough for them to maintain an amicable relationship. Following which, Shifeng led Blackie and the others away from the Dark Moon Graveyard, returning to town to sort out everyone's bags. He then planned to take them to level up. Previously, he had always been tight for time. Now that he had finished dealing with his matters, the time was just right for everyone to rise up to level 10 quickly. Meanwhile, Zhao Yueru looked at Shifeng's departing back, faintly feeling a sense of familiarity. She did not know why she was feeling an indescribable sense of loss in her heart. Snow, why didn't you try harder? If you told him about the matters of the god-slaying army, he might have even agreed to join. Zhao Yueru asked. Gentle Snow smiled, saying, Didn't you hate the thought of him joining us before? But now you want him to join us instead? A blush appeared on Zhao Yueru's delicate face as she said in an upright tone, Aren't I doing this for you? Regardless of what anyone said, he is also a top-tier expert. If you were to lure him into Ouroboros, he would become a person on our side. In the future, if he gets along well in the god-slaying army, he would be able to bring you a lot of influence and authority. If he didn't perform so outstandingly well just now, I would definitely try my best at pulling him over. However, he was just too remarkable, just like a true dragon. Right now, he is but a dragon hidden in the abyss. Sooner or later, he will be able to soar into the skies, and we will be able to do nothing to hold him back. Who knows, in the future, he might even become a headache of an opponent to Ouroboros. Gentle Snow lightly laughed. An opponent, is it? Zhao Yueru entered a deep thought. Chapter 112 7 Luminaries Gemstone. Chapter 112 7 Luminaries Gemstone. After Martial Union was exterminated, the news of its demise was quickly spread around Red Leaf Town. Some people had even recorded the battle and posted it onto the official forums, the incident quickly becoming popular. Ouroboros had first conquered the Helm mode of Dark Moon Graveyard. They had then gotten rid of Martial Union's over 100 members. The valiant appearance of the Snow Goddess had captured the hearts of all the male players, and instantly, Ouroboros' position and influence around the region of White River City had skyrocketed. As a result, countless players wished to join Ouroboros. Due to the recording of this battle, there were plenty of upper echelons of guilds that had noticed Shifeng's existence. The origin of this battle was, after all, due to Martial Union's enmity towards Shifeng. However, not only had Shifeng himself received the aid of the Snow Goddess, he had even personally killed off Ironsword Lion in a head-on confrontation. This was enough proof of Shifeng's exceptional strength, and also his good relations with the Snow Goddess. Taking these points into mind, these upper echelons needed to let their subordinates pay more attention towards Shifeng. When Shifeng and the others returned to Red Leaf Town, many players on the streets had shifted their gazes towards the group. Crap, isn't that Yifeng, the person that went dungeon raiding together with the Snow Goddess? A male warrior said. If I go and beg Big Brother Yifeng, I wonder if Big Brother Yifeng will bring me to level 10? Another female elementalist bashfully said to her companion. Shifeng had completely become a celebrity now. Wherever he went, there would definitely be someone paying attention to, and talking about, him. Brother Feng, you're already a famous person. Now you only need to wiggle your finger, and there would be a crowd of beauties running over to you. In the future you mustn't forget to introduce a few to me, Blackie laughingly said. Stop talking nonsense. Our priority right now is to level up. The sooner we get to level 10, the sooner we can compete for more advantages after we enter White River City. Shifeng smiled as he said. Since everyone is tired now, let's rest for an hour. We'll gather again after you all get your equipment repaired, and replenish your necessities. After hearing Shifeng's arrangements, Blackie and the others immediately went to the smithy to repair their equipment. They did not know why, but normally when they were grinding on the level 5 forest wolves, even if they had been grinding for over 10 hours, the durability of their equipment did not fall by much. However, right now, just after raiding a dungeon once, the durability of their equipment had all fallen by almost half. If they were to raid the dungeon another time, the durability of their equipment might fall to 1 within just 3 to 4 hours, becoming useless. When everyone arrived at the smithy to repair their equipment, they suddenly discovered a frightening matter. Previously, it was a normal occurrence for them to change into new equipment. Hence, they had never repaired their equipment even once before. Now, however, all the equipment Kola was wearing only had half of its durability remaining. As a result, repairing all of it had required a fee of 1 silver 63 coppers. Such an amount was enough to purchase a level 1 bronze equipment. The higher the durability loss of an equipment, the higher the repair fees would be. If every piece of equipment on Kola's character had dropped down to 1, it would take, at the very least, 4 silver coins to get it all repaired. Such an amount was the equivalent to 2 days of Kola's earnings. However, because Kola had become a follower of Sherfong, the speed at which he earned money was much faster when compared to many other elite players. If those elite players were to repair their equipment, the total fees would be equivalent to several days of their earnings. "Boss, are you trying to rob us here?" Kola complained, unwilling to fork out such an expensive repair fee. Previously, he had obtained a mysterious treasure chest from clearing the Helm mode of Dark Moon Graveyard. From the mysterious treasure chest, he had received over 3 silver coins and 5 bottles of intermediate recovery potions. If it weren't for that treasure chest, just this repair fee alone would have turned him into a broke bastard. "Adventurer, I have already given you a 10% discount. It is already a very cheap price," the blacksmith said with a huff. Hearing the blacksmith saying so, Blackie and the others suddenly came to a realization. Their reputation in Red Leaf Town had already reached 30 points, receiving a 10% discount for all purchases made in Red Leaf Town. They truly did not think that it would be so costly just to repair their equipment. However, if their equipment turned to scrap, not only would they lose their equipment, their leveling speed would also be greatly reduced. Hence, they had no choice but to repair their equipment. Trade area, auction house. Sherfong was frantically purchasing items from the auction house. The previous glimmer chestplate forging designs Sherfong sold before had once again allowed him to profit greatly. Now, there were at least 73 gold coins in his bag. In the entire White River City, there was not a single player who was more rich than him at the moment. Right now, if he saw any items whose prices would inflate in the future, he would buy all of them. This was because once players reached higher levels, it became much easier for them to earn game currency and, as a result, the value of game currency fell. Instead of just waiting for the coins in his hand to depreciate in value, he might as well purchase some items that would increase in value and store them in the bank. After some time not visiting the auction house, the number of hard stones, card sets, and other items whose value would increase in the future had grown once more. Sherfong had spent over 8 gold coins on such items, filling up the 640 slot bags he had just bought, and even needing to make several trips to the bank. It wouldn't be long before these items would have their values increased by manifold. Just thinking about it gave Sherfong a delighted feeling. Meanwhile, the value of the glimmer chestplate forging design had now begun to fall. Currently, each piece was only being sold for around 2 gold coins, and it wouldn't be long before it became completely worthless. Seeing that the number of guilds purchasing the glimmer chestplate forging design was becoming fewer, Sherfong decided to continue selling them for a while more before thinking of another way to make money. Now, his main goal was to earn credits. Just judging from the small amount of credits he currently possessed, it was still not enough for his workshop to squander. Currently, Sherfong still possessed more than 60 gold coins. He then took out 30 gold coins and registered them on the virtual trade center. Right now, various large guilds were in the midst of purchasing coins in bulk. It wouldn't be long before he could sell all his coins, earning him a lot of credits. Following which, inside the bank, Sherfong started arranging the harvest he obtained today. He had already obtained more than 10 pieces of bronze equipment just from the elite players of Martial Union he had killed. Originally, Sherfong had intended to sell off these equipment pieces. However, his workshop would definitely be recruiting new members in the future. Hence, he decided to store them inside his warehouse, as they might come into use in the future. In any case, he was not lacking in this small amount of money. As for the ash blade, the most important item he obtained from the Dark Moon graveyard, he kept it inside his warehouse for now. It was still of no use to him right now. Only when he arrived at Star Moon City would he have a chance at finding a clue about the ash blade. After all, the owner of the ash blade had an unfathomable origin, being titled as the God's Slayer in God's domain, an existence feared even by the gods. The clues relating to this ash blade could only be found in the capital city of Star Moon Kingdom. Ah? What's this thing here? Shifeng dug up a crystal the size of his palm from his bag. And isn't this one of the items dropped by Ironsword Lion? Shifeng discovered that he was somewhat familiar with this item. It was indeed one of the 2 items that were dropped by Ironsword Lion. 7 Luminaries Gemstone. Special item. Transports the user to Blackwing City. Uses remaining April 5th. Dropped after death. This Ironsword Lion truly can't be underestimated. It was no wonder he was so powerful in the previous life. It was all because of this item here. Shifeng looked at the 7 Luminaries gemstone in his hand, unable to refrain from revealing a smile. Blackwing City was no ordinary location. It was also not a place that players could simply go to as they wished. Players needed a teleportation crystal to go to that place, and the 7 Luminaries gemstone was one of those passes. In Shifeng's previous life, Blackwing City's fame resounded throughout God's domain. All the major powers would willingly purchase the passes to Blackwing City at high prices. However, to an average player, it would be meaningless, even if they went to Blackwing City. At most, they would only go there to widen their horizons. However, to the upper echelons of a major power, it was an absolute heaven. After going there once, they would want to go there again. Shifeng looked at the time, discovering that today was a big day in Blackwing City. He definitely must make a trip to Blackwing City today. Hence, he sent a message to Blackie saying, "Blackie, I still have some other things to take care of, so I won't be able to bring you all leveling for now. After all of you are rested, go to the level 8 area, Roaring Hill, to level up. As long as you guys are careful, your leveling speeds there will be extremely quick." Chapter 113 Blackwing City. Chapter 113 Blackwing City. Red Leaf Town, slum area. Although it was still daytime, the enchanted bar was packed with red players that tread along the boundaries of darkness. However, amongst this crowd of players, there were several green players present in the bar, seemingly highly out of place. These players were Ironsword Lion and his several subordinates. "Absolute heaven, I need you to kill a person for me. Name your price," Ironsword Lion said to the man before him. The man who held a stern expression was currently drinking from a beer bottle. The stern-looking male did not pay any heed to Ironsword Lion, one of his arms wrapped around an alluring, well-developed woman, while the other held onto a beer bottle. The man only minded his own business as he flirted with the woman, his lips curling into a wicked smile, giving others a chilling feeling. Ironsword Lion's expression immediately sank. Beside him, Drifting Blood immediately slammed his hands on the table, cursing. "Hey, can't you hear that our boss is speaking to you? Stop trying to act deaf!" Just after Drifting Blood finished speaking, a snow-bright dagger had slashed across his neck. The dagger then stabbed into his heart, finally being abruptly pulled downwards and slashed apart a deep wound. A stab, a pull, and a slash, all 3 moves were executed in a very natural manner. Before Drifting Blood could even cry out in pain, his body had already fallen to the ground. "Absolute heaven, what are you trying to do? I'm here to talk business. What is the meaning of you killing my subordinate?" Watching Drifting Blood be instantly dealt with, Ironsword Lion bellowed. However, he did not dare attack the man before him, because he knew that if he were to take action, his end would only be similar to that of Drifting Blood. "Because I like it." "What? You have something to say about it?" Absolute Heaven laughed as he indifferently looked at Ironsword Lion. He casually brandished his dagger, creating an image of a flower. You! Ironsword Lion was angered to madness, but he still dared not let out the curse through his mouth. Absolute Heaven was an assassin in real life. A famous one, to boot. He was also a top-tier expert within virtual reality games. However, there were very few people who knew of him. For those who did know him, they were usually ones who had been assassinated by him before. When Ironsword Lion used to play some other wuxia game before, he had been assassinated by Absolute Heaven several times previously, which was how he got to know Absolute Heaven. However, Absolute Heaven's temper was extremely odd. Regarding the things he was uninterested in, no matter how much money he was offered, he would refuse to carry them out. He was only willing to carry out tasks that managed to pique his interests. Until today, he had yet to fail a single task that he had taken on. If Absolute Heaven was threatened or compelled into doing something, then oftentimes, the customer that did so did not have a happy ending. Ironsword Lion had once seen a customer wanting Absolute Heaven to kill a player back to level 0 no matter what. However, Absolute Heaven refused to do so. That customer was similarly an ill-tempered person, declaring to take action against Absolute Heaven as well. As a result, that customer was personally killed by Absolute Heaven all the way back to level 0, forced to delete his account in the end. Seeing Ironsword Lion remaining silent, Absolute Heaven smiled. He then resumed hugging onto the beauty by his side and drinking his beer without a care in the world, acting as if everything before had never happened. Drifting Blood being killed off in the bar similarly did not attract the attention of any other players. That was because incidents like this occurred on a daily basis in this place. Everyone had long since gotten used to seeing it. Meanwhile, Ironsword Lion could only inhale deeply several times, calming down the rage in his heart. Absolute Heaven, don't be so quick to refuse. If I tell you the name of this person, you will definitely be interested, Ironsword Lion said in a serious tone. However, Absolute Heaven remained uncaring, as if Ironsword Lion was just empty air. This person is called Jifeng. He is a top-tier expert. I only wish for you to kill him back to level 0, or force him to delete his account and start all over again. As for the price, it is up to you to decide. Ironsword Lion took out a recording, sending it to Absolute Heaven. The recording depicted the scene where Ironsword Lion himself was killed off by Jifeng. 2 swords, 4 images, impossible to fend off. The final strike that killed off Ironsword Lion was also extremely swift and graceful, impossible for anyone to block. After taking a look at the recording, Absolute Heaven's interest was immediately piqued. He then said, 1,000,000 credits, one-time payment. Ironsword Lion's heart could not help but twitch after hearing this price. However, he had long since known of Absolute Heaven's way of setting prices based on the target's strength. Normally, killing a player would only cost around 100,000 credits. Ironsword Lion did not imagine that Jifeng would be worth so much, actually requiring 1,000,000 credits. Fine. Give me your account, I'll transfer it to you immediately. However, how much time would you require to get the job done? Ironsword Lion was very determined. Even if he had to dig out all his resources, he still had to get rid of Jifeng in order to appease his anger. 5 days. Absolute Heaven looked at Jifeng inside the recording, excitedly saying so. Hearing Absolute Heaven's guarantee, Ironsword Lion could already picture the sight of Jifeng being killed back to level 0. He then transferred the money to Absolute Heaven. On the other side, the person in question had already arrived at Blackwing City. Blackwing City was one of the most mysterious cities in God's domain. It was much more flourishing than Star Moon Kingdom. Just by standing on the streets, one could see gorgeous-looking, European-styled, medieval-aged buildings. Even if it was nighttime, the city was still illuminated with glorious lights. Moreover, the NPCs that walked the streets were all over level 100. There were even quite a few NPCs who possessed Tier 2, and even Tier 3 jobs. Rumor had it when the king of Star Moon Kingdom met up with the city lord of the Blackwing City, even the king was required to act respectfully in fear of offending the city lord. Within Blackwing City, there were plenty of interesting things to be found. If one were to tour around the city, it would take at least a few weeks to do so. Blackwing City also had plenty of masters of various lifestyle jobs living here. The items made by these masters would usually end up being sold in shops in the city. Moreover, players were also able to purchase the specialties of other countries in Blackwing City. This was definitely a treatment not found in other, ordinary cities. With all these attractions, the most famous amongst them was the auction house of Blackwing City. The auction house here held an auction once every week. Moreover, the items auctioned were all rare ones sold by NPCs. Epic rank items would even be sold in this weekly auction. Such an item was definitely impossible to purchase outside of Blackwing City. Hence, this was the reason why the upper echelons of all the major powers wished to come to Blackwing City. On the other hand, even if the average player were to come here, at most, they would only be here to sightsee. It was because they were completely unable to afford the items sold by the NPCs here. Moreover, there were no wild monsters here in Blackwing City. There were also no quests to be found here. It was a city purely meant for players to conduct trade within. Blackwing City was a heaven, loved by the tycoons of the game. There are still 2 hours before the auction starts. I'll go buy some local specialties first then. Sherfong looked at the time, discovering that he was still early. He hailed for a horse carriage, bringing him to the business district of Blackwing City. Blackwing City was just too huge. If Sherfong were to walk on foot, he would need, at the very least, 2 to 3 hours to arrive at the business district. Normally, players would spend money to hire horse carriages as a means of transportation. However, hiring a horse carriage did not come cheap. At the minimum, a horse carriage would cost 1 silver coin, and depending on the distance traveled, the price would similarly change. If an average player were to come to Blackwing City at this period of the game, they most likely would not even be able to afford a horse carriage. After more than 10 minutes had passed, Sherfong alighted from the carriage, arriving at an engineering shop. This engineering shop was not large. It was only a small building with 2 floors. There was an old-looking, wooden signboard hung at the entrance with the words, "Cruz's Workshop," carved into the wood. Although the shop seemed shabby at first sight, Sherfong knew that this shop was opened by the engineering grandmaster, Cruz Gaia. He was also the one and only engineering grandmaster in Blackwing City. As for the other engineering shops, those were all operated by engineering masters or engineers. Although those shops appeared to be flourishing, the items sold by them were all very expensive, yet of poor quality. Back in the early days, Sherfong had often been scammed by those shops. Sherfong pushed open the door, entering Cruz's workshop. The caretaker of the shop was called Luciola, a shy-looking girl who had her hair tied into 2 ponytails. If one used observing eyes, they would quickly discover that this frail-looking girl was in actuality a professional mage, a job that advanced 2 tiers from an elementalist. Furthermore, she was even at level 100. A level 100 tier 2 mage could easily extinguish a single red leaf town. If a player dared to cause a scene in this shop, they would quickly turn into a pile of ash. Chapter 114 Blackwing Auction House. Chapter 114 Blackwing Auction House. Very rarely did Cruz's workshop have customers, and Sherfang's entry into the shop immediately roused Luciola's attention. "Lord Demon Hunter, I wonder what items my lord requires? Our shop has a variety of items, and we guarantee their quality." Luciola walked towards Sherfang, asking respectfully. Sherfang did not think that, regardless of location, the Demon Hunter title would be so respected. The title even held effect in Blackwing City. "I wish to have a look at the new goods you have this week," Sherfang replied. "My lord, our shop is stocked with many new items this week. I guarantee that my lord will be satisfied with them," Luciola said. "Guide me to them, then." Sherfang nodded his head. In Sherfang's previous life, he had never once before gone to the 2nd floor of the shop. He did not think there were even items being sold on the 2nd floor. "My lord, this way, please." Saying so, Luciola brought Sherfang to the 2nd floor. The 2nd floor was filled with display cabinets, all of them showcasing many rare engineering tools that dazzled a person's eyes. Amongst the display cabinets, there was an item that greatly attracted Shifeng's attention. Rocket boots. One of the godly escaping tools in God's domain. With it, one could easily escape when met with dangers in the wild or when being hunted by other players. Moreover, this was epic equipment that was made by an engineering grandmaster. Regardless if it was the attributes or effects, both were not something with which the common ranked rocket boots could compare. However, the price tag hanging on the epic ranked rocket boots was a frightening 1,200 gold. Even if Shifeng considered himself as rich, he could not even afford a fraction of such an amount. After making a round through the display cabinets, a majority of the items sold were all to Shifeng's liking. Moreover, they would be of huge aid to himself, and he could not help but wish that he could just take all of them away. However, his pockets were not sufficiently deep, and he could only lament over his fate. Lord Demon Hunter, are these items not to your liking? Seeing that her long-awaited customer was shaking his head, Luciola hurriedly asked. However, how would Shifeng have the cheek to tell Luciola that he did not have that much money? Any of the items showcased here would, at the bare minimum, cost around tens to hundreds of gold coins. Just based on the 30 over gold coins in his bag, he would at most be able to purchase a single item here. Do you have frost grenades here? After giving it some thought, Shifeng decided that it would be better to buy some more useful items. Lord Demon Hunter, the frost grenades are sold in the common section on the first floor. The VIP section on the second floor does not sell them. My lord, please follow me. Luciola brought Shifeng down to the first floor once more. At this moment, Shifeng finally realized that the second floor was the VIP section. It was no wonder the items on display there were so expensive. In his previous life, when he had discovered this workshop here, he was already around level 70 to level 80. However, he did not possess the Demon Hunter title at that time, so he could only shop at the common section. Yet, even then his gains were already bountiful. Now, he had inadvertently discovered the VIP section on the second floor. Moreover, there were so many items sold in that section. Unfortunately, the money he possessed was just too little to buy anything. He could only come again in the future, after earning more money. Corresponding to the lower number of items being sold on the first floor, their prices were similarly much lower. Lord Demon Hunter, these are the frost grenades that you requested. They are categorized into 3 tiers. May I know what type you are seeking? Basic Frost Grenade. Effective against monsters and players below level 30. Deals 200 frost damage in a radius of 10 yards, which freezes targets for 5 seconds, then reduces movement speed by 60% for a duration of 12 seconds. Price: 1 silver 50 coppers. Intermediate Frost Grenade. Effective against monsters and players below level 70. Deals 800 frost damage in a radius of 12 yards, which freezes targets for 5 seconds, then reduces movement speed by 60% for a duration of 12 seconds. Price: 10 silvers. Advanced Frost Grenade. Effective against monsters and players below level 120. Deals 2000 frost damage in a radius of 15 yards, which freezes targets for 5 seconds, then reduces movement speed by 60% for a duration of 12 seconds. Price: 70 silvers. Just a single intermediate frost grenade was enough to instantly kill a level 5 MT, fully equipped with bronze equipment. Meanwhile, although the basic frost grenade could not instantly kill a player, it could freeze them for 5 seconds, followed by a 60% reduction in movement speed for 12 seconds. These effects were just too frightening. As for the advanced frost grenades, this item was not something with which an ordinary player could mess around. Not mentioning the 2000 frost damage it could cause, it also possessed an effective radius of 15 yards. If Shifeng were to have used this item in his previous battle with Martial Union, it would have saved him much trouble. Just throwing 3 of these things would rid him of all his problems. However, a single advanced frost grenade already cost 70 silver coins. It was just too expensive a price tag. Moreover, using such an item at his level was simply too extravagant. I want 3 stacks of basic frost grenades and 30 units of intermediate frost grenades. Sherfong thought that it was still best to purchase a few intermediate ones as a preventive measure. If he were to end up being hunted by Martial Union again, these intermediate frost grenades would aid him in getting rid of all those troubles. A stack of frost grenades consisted of 200 units, and 3 whole stacks would be enough to last him for a very long time. Lord Demon Hunter, you can enjoy a 10% discount in our shop. The total amount for these items is 10 gold 80 silver. Luciola brought out all the requested items, saying after making a quick calculation. All right. Sherfong felt joy in his heart. In his previous life, even with his status as a Tier 3 Sword King, he had never received discounts when purchasing items here. He did not imagine that the Demon Hunter title would be so awesome, even earning him a discount within Blackwing City. This was truly an unexpected happiness. After purchasing the frost grenades, Sherfong rode on the horse carriage to the heart of the trade area, the Blackwing Auction House. The Blackwing Auction House was one of the most majestic buildings within Blackwing City. The land it took up was the size of 4 football fields. Moreover, the building possessed 188 floors. The royalty of the various countries in God's domain, and even great characters, like Tier 5 NPCs, would sometimes visit this place to purchase items. Immediately after arriving at the Blackwing Auction House, Sherfong had noticed that there was actually a dozen or so players queuing up to enter the auction house. However, such a sight was nothing strange to behold. Even a small place like Red Leaf Town had managed to produce a pass to Blackwing City. There were hundreds of towns under the influence of White River City, while there were over 100 cities under the rule of Starmoon Kingdom. Moreover, there were hundreds of countries in the entirety of God's domain. Hence, it was only normal for hundreds of players to appear in Blackwing City right now. The ones who were capable of coming to Blackwing City right now were either those who had extremely good luck, or those who belonged to the upper echelons of major powers. For the average players that did arrive at this place, however, they would quickly discover that although Blackwing City was a good location to be, it would be of no help to average players like them. Hence, it would be better for them to sell the entry ticket to a major power, earning some quick money. Meanwhile, the players that were lined up here all had very high levels. The highest amongst them was a level 7 bearded man. The large man wore a complete level 5 bronze set equipment, and was also carrying a mysterious iron axe on his back. One glance at the man was enough to tell that the man's strength was not to be trifled with. As for the other players, they were all at level 6, each wearing complete bronze set equipment, and none of them looking to have a simple background. Noticing Sherfong walking over, these players all discovered that Sherfong was surprisingly at level 7, the same level as the bearded man beside them. However, the silvery white, delicate set equipment worn by Sherfong faintly gave off a chilling and heavy pressure. Although it was a bronze set equipment, a single look at it, and anyone could tell that it was not just any ordinary set equipment. Moreover, there were even individual pieces of secret silver-ranked equipment. Although they could not tell what rank the black sword hanging around Sherfeng's waist was at, the other sword gave off the glow of a secret silver equipment. Compared to the bearded man, Sherfeng was obviously much more powerful, and the players present immediately started having notions of befriending him. This one is Lonely Goose of the Moon Temple. Fellow friend, I have never seen you around before. Is this your first time visiting Blackwing City? A gentle scholarly-looking, level 6 swordsman walked up and asked Sherfeng. After arriving at Blackwing City, Sherfeng did not disguise his equipment, leaving them in their original appearance. He had only altered his own facial appearance, turning it into the appearance of the middle-aged man, Black Flame. That way, nobody would be able to recognize him as Yifeng. Hearing this scholarly person introduce himself, Sherfeng could not help but size up this man called Lonely Goose. Chapter 115 Egoistic Blade. Chapter 115 Egoistic Blade. __. The Moon Temple was a very well-known guild in God's domain. However, their area of influence was not situated in Starmoon Kingdom, but instead the Tulip Empire. The competition between guilds there was much more intense compared to Starmoon Kingdom. Meanwhile, the Moon Temple was one of the top few guilds in Tulip Empire. Compared to Ouroboros, they were much stronger. The scholarly Lonely Goose in front of Shifeng right now was also a famous top-tier swordsman. It would be advantageous to Shifeng if he befriended such a person. Hello? Shifeng nodded his head, giving others a taciturn feeling. Aside from Lonely Goose, several more players came up and introduced themselves to Shifeng. They all wished to befriend him. After all, an additional friend meant an additional path they could have in the future. It was especially true for the top-tier experts that could arrive at Blackwing City. As to whether they would become enemies in the future, the possibility of such a situation happening was low. As for the reason to such a conclusion, up till now, the group of them had yet to see a top-tier expert belonging to the same country as them in Blackwing City. Also, every country was very far apart from each other, and countries coming in touch with each other would be a matter in the far future. On the other hand, if they could become friends and have a cooperative relationship, then it would be beneficial to both sides. This was also one of the hidden benefits of Blackwing City. The bearded man swept a glance at Shifeng, discovering that Shifeng's level was actually the same as his own. Being able to reach level 7 was an achievement of which he was extremely proud. However, now that he realized he was the same level as an independent player, he immediately felt a sense of provocation. In addition to the other players trying to befriend Shifeng, the bearded man snorted. Humph, he's just an independent player. What is the point in trying to curry favor with him? With the bearded man's words, the entire atmosphere in the auction house became tense. Playing the part of the friendly guy, Lonely Goose said with a smile. Brother Egoistic Blade, not everyone can easily come to Blackwing City. Is there a need for such a cold treatment? If we can all get along with each other, it would be a great benefit for all of us in the future. Help? Just based on the luck of an independent player, how would he be able to mutually cooperate with us? How can he be of any help to us? The disdain in the bearded man's words kept on growing. The man then flaunted the guild emblem on his chest, the words, Bloodthirsty War God, written on the emblem. The emblem was silver in color, signifying that the bearded man was at the rank of an elder within the guild. Bloodthirsty War God was one of the top 3 first-rate guilds in Black Dragon Empire. Bloodthirsty War God was a long-established guild, its lengthy history tracing back at least 60 years ago. At that time, not even Shifeng's parents had been born yet. Looking at Egoistic Blade behaving so, even Lonely Goose felt helpless about it. He then looked at Shifeng, apologizing. Truly sorry. Brother Egoistic Blade doesn't usually behave this way. Maybe he is in a bad mood today. This should be Brother Black Flame's first time coming to the Blackwing auction house, right? You've come at a good time. Today just happens to be a day where the Blackwing auction house is holding an auction. However, if you wish to participate in the auction, you need to purchase a Blackwing insignia that costs 2 gold coins. You will only be allowed entry if you possess the Blackwing insignia. Furthermore, the players who possess the Blackwing insignia can bring along 2 more players with them. How about Brother Black Flame let me bring you into the auction? You could save a big expenditure that way. As Shifeng was about to voice his rejection, Egoistic Blade sneered. A beggar that can't even afford a Blackwing insignia, what right do you have to come along with us? I only have one thing to say. I don't wish to be together with this little bastard. If you all wish to form an alliance, it's either me or him. You guys make your choice. Either he goes or I go. Egoistic Blade had the bloodthirsty war god serving as his background, while Shifeng had nothing he could rely on. Egoistic Blade was extremely confident that Lonely Goose and the others would choose him without even the need to think. Only when the strong cooperate with each other would they be able to bring out the greatest benefits. If they were to cooperate with an independent player, who could guarantee that, after this person's entry ticket to Blackwing City had been used up, he would still be able to return to Blackwing City? Meanwhile, Egoistic Blade had a first-rate guild supporting him. It would be tens of thousands of times easier for him to obtain another pass to Blackwing City when compared to a mere independent player. If Shifeng did not even possess the ability to frequently visit Blackwing City, how would he be able to guarantee a mutual cooperation? Brother Egoistic Blade, must you do so? Lonely Goose and the others could not help but have a headache as they tried to mediate the situation. They only wished to mutually profit from each other. Yet, Egoistic Blade had created such a situation and had even spoken such words. If they chose to accept Shifeng into their group, then Egoistic Blade would definitely feel humiliated. However, if they accepted Egoistic Blade, then Shifeng would naturally leave feeling angry and as though he had been crossed. On one side, it was a first-rate guild. On the other, it was an independent player. The situation left everyone in a state of distress. What are you all hesitating about? Is it such a hard decision to make? I have the bloodthirsty war god backing me. The information and resources I have at my disposal far exceed what any of you can imagine. If you all do not wish to cooperate, then I can simply look for some other guilds to cooperate with. No matter what, I don't wish to see an independent player within our alliance group. Egoistic Blade looked at Lonely Goose and the others, saying in an extremely displeased manner. Shifeng watched Egoistic Blade's extremely stubborn behavior, as if the world revolved solely around him alone. The man was even using the influence of his background in order to chase Shifeng out of the group. Although Lonely Goose and the others had clearly come up to Shifeng on their own accord, they now showed signs of hesitation. Seeing this situation, Shifeng sneered. Since I'm just an independent player, I won't trouble you any longer, brother Lonely Goose. People who walk different paths cannot make plans together. Let us go our separate ways from now on. Finished saying so, Shifeng walked towards the entrance of the auction house. Looking at Shifeng walking away in a huff, Lonely Snow and the others could do nothing but drop the subject. After all, Shifeng was but an independent player. Although he was an expert, he would not be able to bring them much benefit. Humph, a mere independent player wishes to have the same standing as us? Don't even dream about it. Egoistic Blade jeered. After some time, the gates to the auction house opened, allowing the masses entry into the building. When Egoistic Blade and the others walked to the entrance. I'm sorry, sir, but you are not allowed to enter. A knight blocked Egoistic Blade and the others. Lord Knight, all of us possesses the Blackwing insignia. Lonely Goose pointed towards the insignia on his chest, saying, The auction held today is the VIP auction. Commoners are not allowed entry. The normal auction will only be held next week, so please come back again at that time. The knight explained. Egoistic Blade then pointed at Shifeng, who was currently walking into the auction house, moodily saying, Lord Knight, then what right does that person have to enter? He doesn't even have a Blackwing insignia on him. It won't be good if you do something like that, right? The knight became extremely displeased by Egoistic Blade's attitude. However, he still looked along the direction Egoistic Blade pointed to, discovering the Lord Demon Hunter, Shifeng. The knight then swept his gaze at Egoistic Blade and the others, saying in disdain, Just based on you commoners, you all wish to have the same standing as the Lord Demon Hunter? Be smart and get lost quickly. I'll have all of you arrested if you continue making a scene. The knight angrily yelled at Egoistic Blade and the others. Egoistic Blade was extremely shocked. How could a random, independent player they met be so awesome? He then thought back to the mocking words said by the knight. Weren't they the words he had uttered just now? If there was a hole available right now, Egoistic Blade wished he could have jumped into it immediately. It was simply too mortifying. Lonely Goose and the others were even more startled. They looked at Shifeng with shocked expressions, endless regret filling up their hearts. After making plenty of investigations, they discovered that there would be an auction held today. Moreover, the items auctioned were extremely rare, so they had paid a huge price in order to prepare a significant amount of coins. Yet, in the end, they couldn't even manage to get past the entrance. Looking at the knight's respectful attitude towards Shifeng, they immediately knew that the title of Demon Hunter must be a very powerful title. Shifeng definitely would have been able to bring along a few more players with him. However, they had chosen to forsake Shifeng instead, missing out on the chance to participate in the auction this time around. The regret in their hearts was quickly pushing them to their deaths right now. At that time, just why did they choose to give up on Shifeng? Lonely Goose and the others then thought of Egoistic Blade, the main perpetrator of this disaster. If it weren't for Egoistic Blade, such an incident would not have happened. Immediately, everyone turned to look at Egoistic Blade in rage and bitterness. Chapter 116 Silver Dawn. Chapter 116 Silver Dawn. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, please come over here. Take the floating platform up to the 66th floor. There will be a person assigned there to receive you. A golden-haired beauty stood beside the floating platform, saying with a smile. The floating platform of the Blackwing auction house was extremely large, capable of fitting more than 50 people at a time. It was from 7 Luminaries crystals, which have extremely good magical conductivity. Many magical runes were carved onto the crystals, allowing the platform to freely float in the air. However, the floating platform was extremely expensive to make, and even if all of Red Leaf Town was sold, it would not be enough to make a floating platform as large as the one in Blackwing City. In the entire Starmoon Kingdom, only the auction house at Starmoon City, and also the Royal Palace, had a floating platform implemented. Moreover, the size of each of those floating platforms was much smaller when compared to the one in the Blackwing auction house. It displayed the level of wealth held by the Blackwing auction house. To say the least, the Blackwing auction house was extremely large in size. It was categorized into 3 different sections, which were the common section, the VIP section, and the luxury section. The auction venue for the common section was located from the 4th floor to the 36th floor. As long as one possessed the Blackwing insignia, they could participate in the common auction. However, there were much less rare items auctioned there. The auction venue for the VIP section was located from the 50th floor to the 100th floor. One must have a certain amount of status before being allowed to participate in the VIP auction. As for the items auctioned, rare items were the mainstay of the auction, with the occasional precious item. The auction venue in the luxury section was located from the 150th floor to the 180th floor. Aside from those with transcendental strength, they were usually the overlords of a region. For example, the characters at the pinnacle of Starmoon Kingdom. In Shifeng's previous life, after he became a Tier 3 Sword King, he obtained a relatively good title, allowing him the fortune of entering the VIP section. As for the luxury section, only the guild leaders and vice leaders of first-rate guilds had the right to enter this area. The pinnacle players who had reached Tier 5 in their jobs were also allowed in this area. As to what items were sold at the luxury auction, Shifeng had no information about them whatsoever. It was a secret only known to the tyrants and pinnacle players of God's domain. Shifeng arrived at the auction venue on the 66th floor. The entire venue was about the size of a single football field, and at this moment, it was completely packed with people. These people were all NPCs with the status of nobles or above, and it was an extremely difficult task for players who wished to compete for items with these NPCs. These NPCs were here specifically to prevent players from easily winning a bid without any competition. Frankly speaking, the NPCs were just props at the auction venue. If a player's bid did not reach the standard amount, then the item would be taken away by the NPCs, preventing players from conveniently obtaining rare items. After everyone was seated, the auction officially started. After a white-bearded old man walked up to the stage, declaring the start of the auction, an item was slowly brought out onto the stage. The first item auctioned was a level 20 secret silver chest plate, its starting bid set at 2 gold. The attributes on it are good, but the price is just too expensive. Clicking on the equipment's information, Shifeng quickly gave up after looking at its attributes. Although it was good equipment, he was unable to put it to use right now. If Shifeng could really buy the item for only 2 gold, then he might have still considered it. However, after a bout of bidding from the NPCs, the price of the equipment had already soared to 7 gold. If he were to sell the chest plate to a first-rate guild, he could not possibly obtain 7 gold for it. At most, he could sell it for 3 to 4 gold. After all, to the average players right now, even copper coins were considered a precious commodity, not to mention gold coins. After which, piece after piece of secret silver equipment was brought out. There was even fine gold equipment being auctioned. However, not a single piece managed to attract Shifeng's attraction. The reason was simple. All of them were just too expensive. If the average level of players reached around level 20, then the prices of equipment would become much cheaper. However, God's Domain had started its operation only recently, so most players were still around level 4. Where would these players find that much money? Half an hour later, the equipment phase of the auction finally ended, and the auction for other items began. The following item being auctioned is a weapon forging design. This forging design is a fine work of Master Korean, and the bid for it will start at 3 gold coins. Immediately, Shifeng's interest was roused. He then clicked to check on the item's information. Silver Dawn Forging Design, Secret Silver Rank, One-Handed Sword. Level 10. Seeing that it was Secret Silver ranked, Shifeng knew that his luck had come. Moreover, the Silver Dawn was a level 10 weapon. It was absolutely something that he needed the most. The Abyssal Blade also needed 10 level 10 secret silver weapons to level up. With this forging design, that problem would easily be handled. However, besides Shifeng, there were still a few other forgers who participated in the bid. After all, a secret silver forging design was extremely rare. With that, the bidding for the forging design quickly started. Within moments, the bidding price had already reached 6 gold. Shifeng gritted his teeth, shouting, 7 gold! 7 gold 30 silvers! 7 gold 50 silvers! 8 gold! With the crazed bidding from the NPCs, the price for the Silver Dawn steadily rose. Crap, I'd bid 15 gold! Seeing that the price has reached 13 gold, Shifeng immediately raised it by 2 gold, showing his determination, and shaking the composure of these NPCs. If the price continued to rise, even Shifeng would not be able to stomach it. After all, he only had slightly more than 20 gold coins remaining. 16 gold! The original worth of this forging design was around 15 gold coins. Shifeng did not think that the NPCs would still compete. 17 gold! Shifeng made his decision. If the NPC forgers were to bid once more, he would immediately bid 20 gold for it. At that point, if it was still no good, then he could only consider himself as unlucky. Finally, the NPC forgers shook their heads at this price, no longer competing in the bid. Congratulations to Mr. Black Flame for winning Master Korean's Silver Dawn forging design! The white-bearded old man clapped his hands, congratulating Shifeng. After receiving the forging design, Shifeng let loose a sigh of relief. At the very least, he did not waste a trip to the auction house this time. As for the 17 gold he had spent, sooner or later, he would be able to get it all back through the Silver Dawn. After auctioning off the forging design, the white-bearded old man continued. The next item is a super rare skill for melee jobs. The bid starts at 5 gold coins. Thunder Flame Explosion, Action Type. Requires melee weapon. Causes 200 base damage, and additional flame and thunder damage to enemies within a 5-yard radius. Enemies struck will be placed in a fainted state for 4 seconds. Cooldown, 45 seconds. Shifeng's eyes shone after seeing this item. Thunder Flame Explosion was definitely a super skill for melee jobs and was one of the most precious items in this auction. What to do? I don't have enough money right now. Shifeng greatly desired this skill book. However, the starting bid for it was already at 5 gold. At the very least, the final price for it would be 20 gold or above. While Shifeng was in silent contemplation, the price for the skill book had already risen to 10 gold. Compared to the Silver Dawn, the bidding for the skill book was even more fiery. Shifeng had no choice but to call out the interface for the virtual trade center, canceling the remaining gold coins he had registered. Thank God! Shifeng let loose a breath as he discovered that there was still 23 gold remaining out of the 30 gold he had registered. In addition to the coins he had on hand right now, it just barely totaled over 30 gold. Such an amount should be sufficient to purchase this Thunder Flame Explosion. 20 gold! Shifeng shouted. 20 gold! Mr. Black Flame has bid 20 gold. Is there anyone else interested in bidding? This is the only precious item in the auction this time around. Everyone should not miss this chance to obtain it. Shifeng could not help but send a disdainful glare at this old man. 21 gold. Since it is a precious item, then it definitely won't be anything simple. I bid 24 gold. A Tier 2 swordsman pleasingly said. I bid 26 gold. A Tier 3 shadowy yelled. The majority of the NPCs present in this auction consisted of melee jobs. Hence, the competition for the skill book was extraordinarily intense. Moreover, the higher-tiered NPCs were all filthy rich. Just by doing a simple quest, they would be able to obtain compensation of several gold coins, so their rate of income was extremely quick. If Shifeng did not earn a lot previously, he stood absolutely no chance at competing with these high-tiered NPCs. Looking at these high-tiered NPCs, he found each one of them was more powerful than the other. There was even a Tier 4 NPC placing a bid for the skill book. Seeing as the price was about to reach Shifeng's bottom line, 30 gold. Shifeng placed his final bid. He would either succeed or die trying. Chapter 117 Aqua Rose. Chapter 117 Aqua Rose. With Shifeng's bid of 30 gold coins, the price of the skill book was greatly increased. A few Tier 2 NPCs shook their heads at this sight, giving up the bid, one after another. Although this skill book was good, its price was simply too high. Just as Shifeng was about to relax. 35 gold! A resonant voice resounded throughout the entire auction venue. Shifeng turned his head to look at the source of the voice, nearly cursing out loud as he found the voice's originator. The person who yelled out the bid was actually not an NPC with a melee job, but a Tier 4 female wizard. Magicians were always the richest individuals in God's domain. To a Tier 4 wizard, they only need carry out a single magical research to earn 30 to 50 gold coins. How unfortunate! Shifeng shook his head, no longer competing for the skill book. He only had slightly over 30 gold coins. He couldn't compete for it even if he wanted to. If he had known this skill book would be sold, then he would not have chosen to sell his gold coins for credits. Although Shifeng had retired from the bidding competition, the other Tier 4 melee job NPCs were still fervently competing over it. The price of the Thunder Flame Explosion had already risen to 45 gold at this point. Aside from the equipment that were over level 100, none of the items auctioned so far could beat this price. 45 gold going once! 45 gold going twice! At this moment, the sound of a notification from the system arrived. System: the Glimmer chestplate forging design you have placed on auction has been sold. After deducting the processing fees, a total of 2 gold 31 silver have been added to your bag space. System: the Glimmer chestplate forging design you have placed on auction has been sold. After deducting the processing fees, a total of 2 gold 44 silver have been added to your bag space. System: the Glimmer chestplate forging design you have placed on auction has been sold. After deducting the processing fees, a total of 2 gold 27 silver have been added to your bag space. A series of notifications arrived, numbering at least 20. Shifeng was immediately shocked when he heard these notifications arriving. He did not understand what had actually happened. During the time he had been in Blackwing City, there were actually so many players who had bought the Glimmer chestplate forging design, that in just a moment, his wallet had greatly expanded. Since Shifeng's wallet was bulging now as he yelled out without hesitation. 46 gold! 45 gold going thrice! This gentleman has bid 46 gold! Are there any higher bids? 49 gold! The Tier 4 female wizard knit her brows slightly. Shifeng was now extremely confident. If the female wizard truly wished to buy the skill book, then he would definitely lose the bid. However, the value of this skill book was certainly not that great to this lady. Shifeng did not believe that she would spend such a large amount of money just to buy it. 55 gold. Shifeng decided to be decisive instead of waiting for the price to slowly rise. For just a skill book, 55 gold coins was definitely an astronomical price. The female wizard was no fool herself, so she immediately gave up on winning the bid. Seeing Shifeng bidding with such a high price, the other NPCs looked at Shifeng like they saw a fool. Even if they were to hire a Tier 3 or Tier 4 job-related tutor to teach them a skill, the fees would not exceed 1 or 2 dozen gold coins. Moreover, the skills they could learn were much better than the Thunder Flame Explosion. Now, Sherfone was actually spending 55 gold coins to learn such a skill. He was no different than a fool for doing so. However, NPCs would not be able to understand the world of players. In the initial stages of the game, the prowess of a skill could greatly change the overall strength of a player. It was especially true for a super rare skill like Thunder Flame Explosion, which was an AoE skill that carried along a fainting effect. It would bring endless benefits to Sherfone in the future. Even if he had to spend 100 gold coins for the skill, it would still be worth it. Without any more NPCs joining the bid, the white-bearded old man finally slammed the hammer. "Congratulations to Mr. Black Flame for winning the Thunder Flame Explosion!" Sherfone joyfully handed over the 55 gold coins, receiving the Thunder Flame Explosion skill book in return. He then immediately learned the skill. Thunder Flame Explosion was a godly skill for grinding monsters and PK in the early stages of the game. With the skill in hand, Sherfone had thought of several more ways to grind monsters. Following this, the auction went on for another hour or so before ending. However, none of the items that appeared were the ones Sherfone needed right now. Moreover, every one of those items was auctioned off at prices of over 100 gold. The final item to appear was even an epic ranked item. Many Tier 4 NPCs madly bid for the item, with the final bid priced at over 5,000 gold. Sherfone could only observe the bidding process at that time, unable to join in on the actual fun. After the auction ended, Sherfone walked out the entrance of the auction hall, satisfied. He wanted to return to Red Leaf Town immediately to find out what had actually happened there. Just why did the number of players who purchased the Glimmer chestplate forging design increase so much? If there was still money that could be earned from the Glimmer chestplate forging design, then he would immediately create another batch. He would earn as much money from it as possible, alleviating the emptiness of his wallet in the process. Sherfone was originally considered a very wealthy person within the region of White River City. However, after making a trip to Blackwing City, he had suddenly discovered that he was actually just a poor bastard. Just as Sherfone was about to leave Blackwing City, a hurried shout came from behind. "Brother Black Flame, please hold on!" Sherfone turned his head around, discovering Lonely Goose and the other players from before. Amongst the bunch, there was also Egoistic Blade, the person who had eagerly tried to chase him away. "What?" Sherfone indifferently asked. Although Sherfone could understand the reason behind Lonely Goose's exclusion of him just now, understanding only remained as understanding. After all, who would have any pleasant feelings with being chased away just after being invited? Hearing Sherfeng's indifferent tone, Lonely Goose helplessly smiled, saying, "Brother Black Flame, I apologize for the incident just now. It was all a misunderstanding. I wonder if we can still have a chat?" "Brother Lonely Goose, I've already said before, people who walk different paths cannot make plans together." How would Sherfone not know what the thoughts Lonely Goose and the others were? Before, these players were able to discard him because of profit. Now that they had found out he could enter the auction house, they all came running back. Regarding the behavior of Lonely Goose and the others, he felt only disgust for it. Forget cooperation. Who knows when they would sell him out for profit once more? Seeing that Sherfone had turned around to leave, Egoistic Blade furiously shouted, "Don't simply throw away this chance we've given you. The influence that first-rate guilds like us possess far exceeds what you can imagine. By aiding us, you will be able to receive a generous return of at least 5 gold coins. That's enough for you to become the richest person in a town. Others won't ever get a chance like this, so you'd best think it through clearly. After some more time passes, your title will be of little value. This is definitely your one chance to make a lot of money." To any independent player, being able to become the richest person in a town was definitely just a pipe dream. Achieving such a feat meant that a player had to have more than 3 to 4 gold coins in their pockets. To a town that was still using copper coins as the main medium of trade, this was definitely an astronomical sum. "Richest in town?" Sherfone could not help but laugh, saying, This is truly an attractive remuneration. Unfortunately, I'm not interested in it. What a joke. Before he had come to Blackwing City, he was already the richest person in the city. He did not lack in that amount of money at all. May I know if you are Mr. Blackflame? At this time, a beautiful female player walked over, asking. The girl looked to be between the ages of 21 and 22, her appearance extremely beautiful, and her body garbed in a gorgeous purple robe. The girl had her lips pursed, her eyes squinted into a smile as she looked at Cherfong. On her delicate white cheeks, a tinge of blush could be seen as she smiled at Cherfong, further increasing her charms. That's right, and you are? Cherfong was not familiar with this girl before him. However, seeing that she was a level 7 cursemancer, and she wore a complete mysterious iron set equipment, it would seem that her strength was definitely out of the ordinary. Hello, you can call me Aqua Rose. We previously met inside the auction venue, but you might have missed me there, the elegant girl named Aqua Rose said with a smile. Hearing the girl's self-introduction, Cherfong was greatly shocked. One of the top 10 ranking cursemancers in God's domain, the Tier 6 curse god, Aqua Rose. Cherfong was actually able to meet her at this place. In Cherfeng's previous life, Aqua Rose's fame was much greater than the cleric god, Violet Cloud. And were you at the auction just now? Cherfong was startled. It should be known that, in order to enter the VIP section's auction venue, one required a certain amount of status. Cherfong was only fortunate to have obtained the Demon Hunter title after doing the first phase of an epic quest. I naturally can't compare to Mr. Black Flame. I was only in there to take a look, unlike you, Mr. Black Flame, spending 55 gold just to buy a single skill book. Aqua Rose sighed, saying, Hence, I am representing Twilight Echo to seek cooperation with you. I wonder if Mr. Black Flame would be interested in this? Twilight Echo was a grandly reputed guild in the virtual gaming world, a titanic existence. Meanwhile, Aqua Rose was one of the more famous elders of Twilight Echo, and her position was extremely high within the guild. Her fame was no less than that of Gentle Snow, and she was an existence of which very few had not heard. Hearing the conversation between Aqua Rose and Cherfong, Egoistic Blade and the others were extremely shaken, their tongues tied up as they dumbly stared. Originally, they had thought of Cherfong as a mere independent player. So, how much money would a player like that possess? If they were to give him 5 gold coins, he would definitely be deeply grateful to them. Yet, from Aqua Rose's words, Cherfong had actually spent 55 gold just to buy a single skill book. Even if they added up all the money they possessed, such an amount was still more than double theirs. Just who was this Cherfong actually? Chapter 118 Another Road to Wealth. Chapter 118 Another Road to Wealth. Receiving Aqua Rose's invitation, Cherfong nodded his head in agreement. In any case, he was bound to have to cooperate with the large guilds in Blackwing City. So, instead of choosing bloodthirsty war god and guilds of similar influence, it would be much better for him to choose the more famous and more influential, Twilight Echo, with which to cooperate. Moreover, Aqua Rose was a very well-renowned name. She was not a girl who prioritized profits, but more friendly relationships. In Cherfeng's previous life, one of Aqua Rose's close friends was targeted by a first-rate guild. The first-rate guild in question wanted to kill her friend back to level 0 no matter what, and they even wanted her friend to hand out all of her precious items. In order to aid her friend, Aqua Rose had unhesitatingly declared war with that first-rate guild. As a result, both guilds incurred massive damage, and Twilight Echo's overall strength was greatly reduced, becoming only an ordinary first-rate guild from then on. If a person prioritized profit over friendship, then they would never have done such a damaging action just to help a friend. However, Aqua Rose had done it. Aqua Rose's friend became extremely touched because of Aqua Rose's actions, becoming one of the fierce generals of Twilight Echo. In the end, Aqua Rose's friend, Unyielding Ice, had even become a Tier 6 mage god, turning Twilight Echo into a tyrannic existence in God's domain. With Aqua Rose's personality guaranteed, Cherfong felt much more assured at cooperating with her. I know a good restaurant up ahead. Let's have a chat over there. After Shifeng agreed to her invitation, Aqua Rose revealed a faint smile. She then guided Shifeng towards the restaurant. After Shifeng and Aqua Rose departed, Egoistic Blade curled his lips in disdain, sourly saying, "Does he think he's amazing just because he has some money? He's just a wealthy spindrift. Sooner or later, I'll definitely be richer than him." Hearing Egoistic Blade saying so, Lonely Goose and the others could not help but look at him in disdain. Shifeng was already having discussions of cooperation in Blackwing City with Aqua Rose. Based on Shifeng's formidable wealth and special status, he would definitely become an influential figure in Blackwing City in the very near future. Shifeng was not someone that Egoistic Blade could compare to. In fact, Egoistic Blade himself knew this truth. He was only speaking to ease the pain in his heart. Red Rose High-Class Restaurant. It was one of the few upper-class restaurants in Blackwing City. Just the NPCs that were guarding the restaurant's entrance were already level 180 Tier 2 jobs. Moreover, the delicacies served here were of absolute perfection. Even if the food served was just a virtual object, eating it would give one an unspeakable sense of satisfaction. However, the average player would definitely not have the courage to dine at this place. That was because just a random cup of tea already cost over a dozen silver coins. Inside a luxurious private room on the 4th floor of the restaurant building, Aqua Rose had casually ordered a few of the most expensive teas available. She sat down quietly, staring at Shifeng, completely unfazed at spending more than 30 silver coins on just beverages. "Whatever sorts of cooperation you have in mind, just speak. It would feel extremely awkward if you just keep staring at me like that." Looking at Aqua Rose's smiling expression as she stared at him, Shifeng started inwardly getting the chills. "Pardon me, I was just very curious about you. I never imagined that the famous chief forger of Star Moon Kingdom would actually be such a matured and composed man like you. Originally, I had even thought that the chief forger would be some quirky old man in his 50s or 60s. Aqua Rose smiled. "I didn't know that Miss Aqua would be so interested in forging. Could it be, Miss Aqua wishes to recruit me into your guild?" Shifeng drank a mouthful of the black tea served, smiling faintly. Shifeng did not feel anything out of the ordinary from Aqua Rose knowing his identity as a forger. After all, the name of Black Flame had become relatively huge now. As long as one made a quick search on the internet, they would be able to find plenty of related information. Aqua Rose shook her head, softly saying, "No. I know that Master Black Flame's ambition is not that small. Hence, I do not have such an intention. I only wish to purchase a few glimmer chestplate forging designs, and also some equipment made by Master Black Flame. For example, a secret silver weapon such as the Silver Dawn. In addition, I wish to make a long-term purchase of gold coins from Master Black Flame. Naturally, I would buy the coins at 20% above the market price. I wonder how Master Black Flame feels about all of this. There won't be a problem with selling you the forging designs and equipment. However, I can only say that I am helpless about the sale of gold coins. Moreover, I have an additional condition myself," Shifeng said after some thought. "If Aqua Rose was willing to purchase his items in bulk, then it would naturally be a good thing. It was especially true for the glimmer chestplate forging design. Selling that item was no different than carrying out daylight robbery. Furthermore, Shifeng could also utilize Twilight Echo to purchase some items for him. As for the gold coins, Shifeng had no intentions of selling them. Master Black Flame, please speak. If it is something that we, Twilight Echo, can carry out, we will definitely do so," Aqua Rose joyfully said as she saw Shifeng agreeing to her conditions. "I need various types of ores and stones. You should know that a lot of ores and materials are required to forge equipment. With the influence of Twilight Echo, I deem that it should be very easy for you all to purchase a large number of ores, right? In addition, I also require the entry pass for Blackwing City. If I cannot frequently come to Blackwing City, I would also be unable to conduct trade with you all," Shifeng calmly said. "At this point, Master Black Flame can rest assured. I can obtain as many ores for you as you want. Moreover, their prices will definitely be cheap. As for the entry pass to Blackwing City, even if Master Black Flame does not mention it, we will definitely prepare them for you. Hearing Shifeng's request, Aqua Rose's smile became even more dazzling. Twilight Echo's location was situated in the Storm Empire. The Storm Empire was a giant ore production. Hence, the quantity of ores available was extremely high, while their prices were extremely cheap. It would be a very easy task for Twilight Echo to obtain a large amount of ores and stones for forging. Moreover, they could also earn a large sum of money from selling the ores and other materials. Shifeng naturally knew why Aqua Rose was so cheerful. Star Moon Kingdom was unlike the Storm Empire. Its geography was situated on flatlands, hence, the amount of ores available was very little, while their prices were extremely high. Hence why Shifeng wanted Aqua Rose to provide him with a large amount of ores, while he would provide the equipment, making it a mutually beneficial exchange. Moreover, if he was unable to use up the ores and materials he purchased at a low price, he could simply sell them off to the other guilds in Star Moon Kingdom. These guilds all needed to nurture their own forgers. Hence, they would need a very large amount of ores and materials. Shifeng would not have to worry about looking for a buyer at all. Shifeng did not imagine that, just by making a single trip to Blackwing City, he would obtain both the items he wanted, and also another road to wealth. Let's trade the forging designs first, then. As for the other equipment and materials, we will trade them on another day. How about 2 days later? Shifeng's heart was constantly filled with thoughts regarding the fellowship party of Jinhai University. It was only a few days before the fellowship party would be held. With his forging skills, if he were to put all his efforts into forging equipment in these 2 days, he should be able to make a large sum of money. If he took the chance to sell off ores as well, he would make even more money. If his luck was good, he might be able to obtain a good harvest from the fellowship party. Master Black Flame, you too should know that God's domain has only recently started its operation, so every guild is slightly tight on gold coins. Can we perhaps conduct the trade with both gold coins and credits? If we can conduct the trade in this way, Master Black Flame, I will purchase as many glimmer chestplate forging designs as you possess. Aqua Rose said in a slightly embarrassed tone. Oh dear. Shifeng pretended to sigh, showing a troubled expression. Seeing this, Aqua Rose became slightly panicked. Right now, every large guild was tight on gold coins, and though they wished to purchase them in bulk, it was an extremely difficult task. After all, God's domain only acknowledged coins, not credits. Moreover, the officials of God's domain had also declared that they would not activate the mechanics of exchanging credits to gold coins. Instead, they only conducted the exchange of gold coins to credits. Regarding the selling price of the glimmer chestplate forging designs, Aqua Rose had previously conducted an investigation. Each forging design was sold at around 3 gold coins. If she was to use only gold coins to conduct the exchange, she would at most be able to buy 4 to 5 pieces. However, after purchasing them, the gold coins spent would greatly affect the development of her guild. Yet, looking at Shifeng's appearance, he did not seem to be very lacking in credits. If she had to trade in only gold coins, then she would truly be left helpless. Chapter 119 God's Domain Upgraded. Chapter 119 God's Domain Upgraded. Miss Aqua, I wonder in what ratio you wish to trade at? Shifeng let out a dry cough, softly saying. If it was the Shifeng of before, he would not have minded fully selling the forging designs for credits. However, it was a different story now. Although credits were extremely important to Shifeng, the value of gold coins right now was similarly huge. It was especially true after Shifeng had come to Blackwing City. All the good items sold here had astronomical prices. Moreover, the NPCs here only accepted gold coins, running a no money, no talk policy. If possible, 2% gold coins and 98% credits. What do you think, Master Black Flame? Aqua Rose's curved eyelashes flickered as she spoke in an embarrassed tone. After all, the glimmer chestplate forging designs were just too expensive. Moreover, she intended to buy a large amount of them. Even if she were to pay just 10% of the price in gold coins, Twilight Echo might not be able to handle it. Sherfong nearly spat out the tea he was drinking after hearing her offer. Paying 2% in gold coins meant that, for a transaction worth 100 gold, Sherfong would only receive 2 gold, while receiving the remaining 98% in credits. Although Sherfong was not trying to be petty, wasn't this amount a little too low? Miss Aqua, after arriving at Blackwing City, you should know that the items sold here will be of great help to us. However, the items here are just too expensive. In addition, the auction house would often sell top-tier items. The value of gold coins goes without saying. The ratio for gold coins you offered is truly not enough. At the very least, it should be at 10%, Sherfong unhurriedly said. I know that I am troubling Master Black Flame. However, Twilight Echo is truly unable to bring out that many gold coins. If Master Black Flame is willing to reduce the ratio down to 5%, I am willing to pay out an additional 20% in credits. I wonder if that would be possible? Aqua Rose was similarly helpless. However, the coins in God's domain were simply too valuable. Even the coins obtained by the money-farming teams of Twilight Echo, which consisted of 3,000 players, was not enough to support the guild's expenditure. Although Twilight Echo was constantly expanding the size for the money-farming teams, from beginning to end, the amount obtained was never enough. Otherwise, Aqua Rose would not be bargaining ceaselessly with Sherfong. Sherfong entered a deep thought. The 5% was very close to his bottom line already. Moreover, Aqua Rose was willing to pay an additional 20% in credits. To Sherfong, this was an extremely attractive proposition. Currently, 1 silver coin was priced at 100 credits. It could be said that the value of coins was the highest at this moment. At the very minimum, their trade would be worth at least 50 gold coins. An additional 20% would be the equivalent of over 90,000 credits, after tax. It was already a large amount. Alright, we'll go with 5% then. How many pieces of the forging design does Miss Aqua wish to buy? Sherfong nodded his head, asking. Aqua Rose stretched out 5 of her delicate fingers. 5 pieces, is it? Sherfong could not help but be startled. After a half a day's worth of discussion, she only wanted 5 pieces? Was she toying with him? Aqua shook her head at Sherfeng's words. It can't be 50 pieces, right? Sherfong was shocked. If all 50 pieces were sold at an additional 20% based on the market price, then each piece would be priced at 3 gold coins. 50 pieces would be 150 gold coins. Just thinking about it was enough to cause Sherfong to be excited. He didn't think that Aqua Rose would have such a big appetite, making a 150 gold transaction amount. This had far exceeded his initial estimates. Just within moments, Sherfong was able to earn several millions of credits. With this amount of money, he would have much more confidence when attending the fellowship party. After all, if one wanted to develop their influence, money was an absolute necessity. No, I want 500 pieces. I wonder if Master Black Flame has that many pieces? Aqua Rose brightly smiled. It was as if she was not buying glimmer chestplate forging designs, but a stack of plain paper. Miss Aqua, are you sure you wish to buy 500 pieces? You should know that the price for such an amount is not a joke. Sherfong verified once more. He could not help but admit that Aqua Rose frightened him. With this many pieces of glimmer chestplate forging designs, it was sufficient to provide for the needs of more than a dozen guilds. Twilight Echo would absolutely be unable to use all of them. Master Black Flame, I am very sure of it. However, with such a large transaction, I too have an additional condition, Aqua Rose said with a mysterious smile. Speak, Sherfong said. Within Blackwing City, your glimmer chestplate forging designs are only allowed to be sold to us, Twilight Echo. Moreover, with such a large transaction, even if only 5% of it would be traded in gold coins, that would still be 75 gold coins. I can only pay all these gold coins in installments. Of course, the first payment would be 10 gold coins. Afterward, I will make sure to pay off the debt within a month. I wonder if you can be satisfied with that? Aqua Rose said. After hearing Aqua Rose speak, Shifeng immediately understood her intentions. This girl intended to purchase his glimmer chestplate forging designs to resell them to the other guilds. That way, she too would be able to earn a ton. Shifeng similarly understood the reason for Aqua Rose's sincerity. Furthermore, he was not a petty person himself. He immediately said in a generous tone, "All right, and since you are buying that many pieces, you only need to pay 10 gold coins. The remainder you can just pay it all off in credits." It would be fine as long as he could sell off the glimmer chestplate forging designs. As for who he sold them to, it did not matter that much. He wouldn't be envious of Aqua Rose either. Aqua Rose's connections were much wider than his own. Being able to sell that many pieces of the forging designs, and at an even higher price, would all be due to Aqua Rose's own ability. On the other hand, Shifeng did not possess such an ability, so why should he bother himself with these matters? He would be satisfied as long as he could earn all the money possible for him to earn from the forging designs. Following which, Shifeng searched for a lounge, spending more than 2 hours in it to make over 600 pieces of glimmer chestplate forging designs. Yet, even after making so many of them, his cost did not even exceed 2 silver coins. This way of earning money was literally quicker than robbing an NPC bank. Shifeng passed 500 pieces of the forging designs to Aqua Rose, receiving 10 gold coins in return. At the same time, Aqua Rose immediately deposited 17.88 million credits into Shifeng's account. In addition to the credits Shifeng earned previously, he now had over 18 million credits in his bank account. Shifeng had become a millionaire within an instant. Shifeng nearly fainted from the rush of joy he felt. Originally, Shifeng had thought that it would be fortunate if he was able to earn a few million credits in the following few days. Now, however, he had earned nearly 18 million credits in an instant. In a few more days, that amount might even rise to 20 million. Although it was not enough to put him on the same level as the young masters of large corporations, it was still enough for him to compete with Shadow at the fellowship party. Moreover, he would be able to establish a high-quality workshop quickly. Aqua Rose became overjoyed when she received the 500 pieces of glimmer chestplate forging designs. With Twilight Echo's influence, she would definitely be able to sell out all of the forging designs, earning a large sum of gold coins. The speed at which she earned gold coins would be several hundred times faster than that of the money farming teams. With this many gold coins, the development of the guild would definitely rise greatly. Who would be able to compete with Twilight Echo from then on? Master Black Flame, let's set our next transaction to be at 3 days later then. At that time, I will bring you the various ores that you require. Also, please don't forget to bring more weapons and equipment. I want as many as you have. Alright, you won't be disappointed. After the two of them finished their trade, both promptly departed from Blackwing City, returning to their own respective countries to make preparations. At that moment, the sky in Red Leaf Town was growing dimmer. The players outside the town were all starting to return. After dark, the monsters in the wild would have their strength increased by 20%. Moreover, their numbers would greatly increase. If a player had the misfortune of being wrapped up like a dumpling by the monsters, dying back to town, then that would be a true tragedy. After returning to Red Leaf Town, originally, Shifeng had intended to investigate the situation at the auction house. He wanted to know why exactly the glimmer chestplate forging designs were being so well received. However, the color of the sky suddenly changed. The azure-colored sky turned rainbow-colored. It was a magnificent sight, which bewitched a person's mind. Immediately after, the entire sky had let out an overwhelming sound that resounded throughout the entire God's domain. System announcement. Emergency notice. Emergency notice. System announcement. God's domain will be undergoing a system upgrade. The system upgrade will require 12 real-life hours. May all players please log out of the game within 10 minutes. System announcement. God's domain will be undergoing a system upgrade. The system upgrade will require 12 real-life hours. May all players please log out of the game within 10 minutes. System announcement. God's Domain will be undergoing a system upgrade. The system upgrade will require 12 real-life hours. May all players please log out of the game within 10 minutes. A series of 4 consecutive system announcements resounded throughout the entirety of God's Domain. Countless players were shaken by the sight and sound coming from the sky, all of them starting a discussion over it. They did not understand just what had happened to God's Domain. Why was there a need for such a sudden upgrade to the system? Just what is happening here? Why is God's Domain evolving so quickly? Shifeng's brows creased into a bundle after hearing the system announcement. According to his memories, God's Domain's first upgrade would only happen at least a month later. Right now, God's Domain evolving was bad news to Shifeng. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.